Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Without further ado, hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast, episode 721. It's June 8th, 2022. I'm your host, Nick Henderson, and I am joined tonight by Brad Simons.
Hello.
What is that? Is that a Starburst
it's an energy drink? Yeah.
A Starburst energy drink. That's called C4? Is that what it's?
Yeah. It's an explosion of energy.
It's funny how you just finished explaining why you're not so tired tonight, and there was no mention of the Starburst energy drink that you're apparently drinking right now.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, also joined tonight by the Chris's Crispy. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you, Nick?
I'm pretty good. You know, video games and shit. It's pretty exciting time. We got a lot to talk about tonight. But also joining us is Christopher Davis.
Hello.
What are you drinking? Is that coffee?
That is all coffee.
Beautiful.
I am in need.
Well,
yeah, I'm doing
glad.
good. Thank you for asking. I saw Top Gun and Everything Everywhere all at once. And those
Fuck
were really
yes,
good,
I saw those are both very good. I saw Top Gun as well. Also, think it's very, very good. Like shockingly so.
Jet airplanes.
Shockingly so. Have almost no nostalgia for Top Gun, the original, even though I did watch it the original the night before going to see it. But goddamn, that sequel is a damn fine movie. Like so much fun.
Fuck yes,
like
it is.
On a totally different level than the original. But man, yeah, it was good. It's good, and I'm glad you finally got to see
Everywhere all at once
Everywhere.
is kind of an amazing film. I cannot believe just like how much work they put into the costume and like set design and just so many things about that movie. It's amazing.
Creativity, man. Creativity.
I can't believe that the guy. I couldn't believe that the guy from that movie was Short Round. I didn't know until someone told me. I was like, "Whoa!"
And he hasn't
crazy.
Acted since around that time.
Yeah.
I understand he has been acting. He just hasn't had a breakout role.
But both of those are very easy film recommendations.
If I was in the Goonies and the Indiana Jones movie, I'd probably pack it up. It doesn't get much better than that.
But quite the film to come back and make a name for yourself again, because it's very good film.
It is way better than Top Gun.
Did you go see Top Gun?
I'm not going to see Top Gun.
Oh, that's right. You can't go see it because of Miles Teller.
I'm not going to see Top Gun.
And
also, I don't know. I don't know.
I wonder,
and U.S. propaganda.
I wonder if somebody could make like a deep fake version of that movie where they replace Miles Teller's face with somebody else, so you could get through it.
Wait, what's wrong with Miles Teller?
Chris Davis, are you fucking new here?
Evidently.
I went to
several times since the last podcast, so
I went to high school with Miles Teller, and he's a douche-atron.
Okay. He's a douche canoe, apparently.
Okay.
But you know what? Well, it's I wish I could be I wish I could tell you that he's not in a lot of it, but he's the main fucking character of the movie. So, but if you. No.
Fuck. Okay. No, I got it back on though. Okay. There's a larger conversation to be had about, Tom Cruise and Scientology, and is that okay?
Yeah, but here's the thing, and we're gonna get past this really quickly. I don't want to focus on this all night. I just want to say, I feel like Tom Cruise may be crazy and he may be a Scientologist, but that dude is so busy, he doesn't even have time to do anything with Scientology. When has he ever actually talked about Scientology publicly? I've never seen it.
Yeah, it happened in the 2000s, and everyone was like, "Whoa." And then fucking David Miscavige or whatever his name is buried him for the next 10 years. But
sure.
I'm telling you, the information's out there. If you want to...
No, I'm not denying. I'm
look
not denying
it up.
I'm not denying
he
it.
He is like
dude,
the number 2. He's like the vice pope of Scientology.
Sure. I mean, that's also that has to do with his notoriety. Like, right? Of course they're going to embrace him like nobody's business money. Because he's so famous. And his money. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. I'm just commenting on the movie. The movie was pretty damn good. But we're not here to talk about movies.
Also,
we're here to talk about video
chat
games.
says, to be fair, all actors are on some level a douche. Keanu Reeves, man. He's one of the best dudes in the industry.
Let's not jinx anything. He's naming a celebrity that's not a douchebag.
Yeah.
That we know of.
We don't know that.
We do know that.
Everybody, no, we don't know it. We just assume because of his outward persona, which is fine.
Sure.
But
in addition to his contributions to the crews and the people he's hired,
by all accounts, he's an amazing person.
Yes, by all accounts, he's an amazing person. We're not going to. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, but like, let's not. Anything could happen at any time. Look at Ezra Miller. That guy is having a very public mental.
What are we even
breakdown?
talking about? We're like,
I don't know.
TMZ right now.
I saw a tweet today that was like, I can't wait to see Tig Notaro as the Flash in the movie.
Oh my! Oh man, Okay, we have to get this train back on the tracks because we got a lot to talk about tonight, and there's a little bit of housekeeping.
We need to talk about Kevin. Then you won't be surprised by shitty.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but like it is one of those things where it's like he can't go a week without. Like it was like you don't hear from him for a while. You just kind of assume he's a douchebag, and then all of a sudden it's like every week he's like terrorizing the island of Hawaii, literally terrorizing the people who live in Hawaii.
There's obviously something like wrong.
Yeah, something is happening, and again, this is not TMZ. We need to move the fuck on. So a little bit of housekeeping, guys, because we have a lot to talk about tonight. It's a big, heavy news week. We're going to talk about all the stuff from the state of play. We're gonna make a few predictions about the Summer Game Fest stuff coming up, and we got some impressions. But we're going to do those in the second segment this week. Before we get into that, I want to remind people of a couple things. One, we did our first top 3 podcast in quite some time. Formerly top 5, but we're going to try and do those once a month. The first one is up. We did our top 3 dream projects. That episode is up and available now on 4playernetwork.com. Also, I want to give a shout out. Last week, we were talking, I forgot how this even came up, but near the beginning of the show, I said something about YouTube videos and how, like, I want to know how many people out there actually watch our show on YouTube. And I was like, if you're human and you watch our show on YouTube and you're not a bot, leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. And you know what? People did. So I want to give a personal shout out to Green Toast, Sam Jensen, Restless Vita, JD, Director Sensei, Michael G, Asimbom, Retro Love, Jason R, and Mikey D for leaving a comment on our last YouTube episode and saying, I love your show and I listen on YouTube. Thanks for putting him on YouTube. So, you know, not everybody said those exact words, but they kind of implied it. Some people did.
Yeah, that one guy said, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, they kind of implied it.
And that other guy said, eat shit. Thanks for the shout out.
Quite a few of those people were also like, I am not a robot. Which is great. I appreciate that. So, you know what? I see you guys. Thank you. Thank you for watching our show on YouTube. So I just wanted to get that out there. But like I said, a lot of ground to cover tonight, so let's just jump right into it. I wanted to talk about all the news and stuff that's been hitting this past week.
Yeah, dude, it's Key 3 season. Key 3.
Have you been, like, holding that in your pocket for, like...
No, I stole that from someone else.
Oh,
Key 3.
We don't have any originality around here. What are you talking about?
I don't get it.
Jeff Keighley.
Key 3.
Oh, is he...
Starts tomorrow.
Summer Game Fest officially starts tomorrow with a big stream. We're going to talk about that.
Well, it allegedly already started because the Sony State of Play had a little Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley probably like paid them a lot of money to be able to just put that logo in that video and kind of unofficially make them part of the Summer Game Fest. But you know what? That's how marketing works, I suppose. So Sony kicked things off last week.
Hey, this is so off topic, but if you hate Jeff Keighley or love Jeff Keighley, it doesn't matter. There's this video you should track down on Angry Joe's channel, who sucks, by the way, but it's him back when Jeff Keighley was doing first started doing E3, I think, where he was doing like, I'm going to do an investigative interview. I want to know why there's no MMO category and stuff. And it's like he tries to like do a red carpet interview, and Jeff Keighley's like being a smug dick, but like, oh, it's so cringe and embarrassing for like, especially for Angry Joe, and everyone in the comments like, dude, you're so brave to put this shit up because this is hilarious. Jeff Keighley destroys him, and it's like embarrassing, but like he destroys him in a way that also makes you hate Jeff Keighley, which is good. It's the best of both worlds. It's hilarious.
Guys, I just want to say again, we're getting off topic a little bit, but like, and on the topic of cringe, man, that sounds too much. I could not. Oh my god, I would be dying.
No idea. You should watch it, Nick. It's so good.
I just want everybody to know that I'm currently trying to, and I say trying because I think this show is absolutely fucking brilliant, but I'm trying to get caught up in Better Call Saul, but that show is just cringe enough that I'm struggling. So that should give you kind of an idea with how like sensitive I am to cringeworthy content. I'm struggling so hard. So I don't think I'll ever watch that video, but I'm glad to know it exists now. Maybe I'll post the link in the show notes.
Yeah, no, someone in chat posted it. It's good. It's better than our show. Go watch that and come back.
It's bad. God damn it, Brad. Okay. News, right? So Sony kicked off Summer Game Fest last week, I suppose, unofficially, with their State of Play. It was 30 minutes. It was focused on quote-unquote third-party content and VR games. So, I feel like right out of the gate they were kind of trying to set expectations for it. But you know what? I don't know about y'all. I think that was kind of a baller presentation. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about. And right out of the gate...
Are we talking about VR games, or are we talking about games with VR content?
There's a couple different ones. There's 2 games in that presentation alone that were specifically VR games.
That's true.
Yeah, there was The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners 2, which exciting because that was a late entry on my Game of the Year list. Was that last year or the year before? Yeah. So it's all anything post-COVID. It's all blurring together at this point. I have no idea.
It's pretty embarrassing. It's pretty bad. I'll say this: it's a bad idea to follow up 2 Resident Evil games with that Walking Dead trailer. Because those are like really high budget, like beautiful games that are also getting VR, and then they show another zombie game that looks like it was made by with $10 or whatever.
No.
It's just a weird way to follow up.
The arrangement of the trailers might have been a little suspect, but I do want to say this: VR games typically look way better with the helmet on, right? No matter what it is. I even think that Horizon game, which looks better than your average VR game, probably looks 100 times better with the headset on. But that Walking Dead game is way more immersive than I would ever have expected. So to see them following that up with a sequel is really exciting. And personally, of the things they showed at this presentation, even counting the ability to play through Resident Evil Village in VR, I think that did more than anything to maybe sell me on the idea of getting this headset. Although I'm assuming that game is also probably coming to PC.
I don't know. Didn't Resident Evil 7 never come to PC? The VR mode?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good point. But I'm talking I'm talking specifically about the Walking Dead game, which did come out on PC. So I would assume that's also coming to PC. I want to play that Horizon VR game because that looks pretty damn cool. That's not really how I wanted to where I wanted to start coming out of the gate on the State of Play. I wanted to talk about how they opened this thing because they started this whole presentation with a date, March 24th, 2023, and it was fucking Resident Evil 4 Remake. So and this is something we've known was coming for quite some time. This was part of this is like that NVIDIA leak, right?
Yep.
It was just yes, and it also just makes
it's part of the actual Capcom hack even before that.
Oh, so right. We've had confirmation, or not. We've had everything except confirmation for a while. But this was definitely a
video audio
bomb ass way to open this presentation. Wait, what'd you say?
Oh, mute the video, Chris.
There you go.
Or turn it down.
Okay. So they showed the Resident Evil 4 remake finally, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I feel like, I don't know, Brad, do you right out of the gate? How do you feel about
sure.
this? I know it's kind of a non-starter.
Well, they didn't really show much in terms of like, I mean, it was kind of like some story stuff, I guess. I mean, my feelings about this Resident Evil 4 remake, which again is something we've known for a long time now, is that I don't feel like it was necessary. I mean, Resident Evil 4 isn't that old of a game, and I guess even if maybe even if I do concede that it's a pretty old game, it's one that still plays really modern. And I didn't feel like it was necessary. I feel like with this new one, just the vibe of this trailer, which was pretty much just a vibe trailer, and because of what they've been doing with the previous remakes, that it's probably going to be like a dark, scarier, more serious take on Resident Evil 4, which is kind of unfortunate in some ways because that's kind of goes against the spirit of Resident Evil 4, but at the same time, Resident Evil 4 is still a very modern playable game, and that game is still there, so I kind of welcome a new, different take on Resident Evil 4.
I think the best thing they could do is distance themselves from the original in tone, and because I mean, like you said, that original game still exists and is still extremely playable. So to have two different kind of interpretations of that game, like you could play either one and be happy. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of depends on your mood. You know what I mean?
I guess it depends on how. There are some people like think about the Resident Evil 3 remake, right? People were really mad that they like took out like big parts of that game, especially like the clock tower and stuff. Right. And there's no doubt in my mind that they're gonna have to cut a lot of shit from Resident Evil 4.
That's a big
Resident
game.
Evil 4 is a much longer game than Resident Evil 3, and a lot of it's
I do think
fucking silly too. So if they're changing the tone of the game, there's like entire sequences and characters, and like, can they really put Salvador in the game? I mean,
yeah,
that's
of course they can. Dude,
there's a giant Salvador robot statue thing that chases you down.
Stuff like that might get cut. Stuff like that, I think that kind of stuff will be cut way before the actual character of Salvador gets cut.
Like there's two scenarios here. There's either A, they're going to cut a lot of stuff, which is the more likely scenario, or B, they keep a lot of stuff, but it becomes a much more linear game. And here's between the two, there's not a good scenario there.
No.
Was that not a linear game?
Yeah, I mean,
it is definitely a linear game. I
Guys,
think
I've played Resident Evil 4 pretty recently, actually, and it was a very linear and dumb game.
But
dumb isn't silly.
But like, I feel like you need to preserve.
You end the game on a jet ski.
I feel like you need to preserve that silliness, because otherwise, I feel like the strength of what they're doing.
No, you're arguing your own point. You're saying it's not necessary, but they need to keep it the same.
No, I didn't say it was not necessary. I said that I do welcome the inevitable, more serious, spookier Resident Evil 4. I welcome it because I know that's what's going to happen.
Oh my god, I forgot that fucking statue thing even happened. Yeah. That is amazing. Please don't cut it.
Well, what I'm saying is that's what I expect, but I would prefer that they do maintain the silliness, the really cool action, the roundhouses and suplexes and stuff, because I don't want Resident Evil to go this direction. They've done so many remakes now and like newer games. I don't want them to go this direction of all these games kind of feeling the same, And like, I feel like maintaining the craziness of Resident Evil 4 in a nice fancy remake would be really cool, right? I mean,
we're gonna get our first look at gameplay of this,
but it's the gameplay. Like there's no modern Resident Evil game, I say post like 5 or 6, whatever. There's no, like, once the Resident Evil was kind of like rebooted in terms of like tone with 7, like those are good games, but I don't think any of them like play better than like Resident Evil 4. Like there's a certain feel to that action, and I'm worried that the remake is gonna make it. I mean, it's a crazy, it's a horror action game, right? I'm worried that really good game feel is gonna go away, because I don't think it's there in like your modern Resident Evil games. And I think,
dude, I would argue that Resident Evil 2 remake plays fantastically. Like,
it does play fantastically,
so
but
much
it doesn't
of that,
play like Resident Evil 4 and 5.
Much of that has to do with because the cues that it took from Resident Evil 4, and I think it's also important to note. I I would argue against that, but whatever. I don't want to get stuck on that debate.
If you take a look at what they did with the Resident Evil 3 remake, with the more action-focused gameplay and like the dodges and things like that, I think the foundation has been laid for that. It's not going to be as fast-paced and frenetic as the original Resident Evil 4 was, but I think you can get close to
it.
I think it absolutely. It's like the enemy designs and the way they react to your bullets. It's the way how much interactivity you have with like the environment and navigating through it. You know, like the environments are designed differently, right? You're jumping through windows, you're climbing, you're hopping over fences and stuff. Like this space that you're inhabiting and the maneuverability you have through it is such a core part of that. You know, the combat loop in that game, and that really went away when they started, you know, doing Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, where it became, the spaces became more like traditional classic Resident Evil, with, you know, like hallways and stuff that you didn't really interact much with, right? Like it became something very different, and I don't want that to go away. I want to be able to kick down ladders as dudes are climbing through windows and shit. I miss.
Can I get a word in here? Can I get a word in here? Because sure. I totally. The foundation of what you're saying, I totally agree with. I don't want them to lose that stuff either, because that is integral to like the identity of Resident Evil 4. At the same time, I think it's a little silly to be worried that they're going that they don't know that, because I think it's also important to note that this is the team that did Resident Evil 2 Remake, not 3. There's two different teams working on this, and this is the team that did Resident Evil 2, which was the one that was received much more positively. But like this, they demonstrated with Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think, that they have a very, they have an understanding of like what people liked about Resident Evil and ways they could modernize those things. And I think they're going to be applying that same design philosophy kind of here. Like there's certain things that just are so core to Resident Evil 4 that I just can't imagine the game without it. And I'm sure that they feel the same way. They know that like the village sequence is absolutely going to be in there, and there's going to be chainsaw dudes. There's going to be windows you can jump through. I would be shocked considering how much they added to Resident Evil 2. Like I can't see them like pulling shit like that out of this. Like they even show the lake. The bigger questions I have, one are what are Ashley's sequences going to be like, and how are they going to make those more modern and enjoyable, because those are the things that people tend to complain about with Resident Evil 4.
Really enjoyable for the first time.
What are you talking about? Ashley stuff is good.
I mean, it's really just the nature of like escort missions in general. I think that is one of the best quote unquote escort missions ever made. Definitely. But at the same time, even then, people don't like escort missions. They got to find a way to like.
Well, those are bad people.
Update them.
But I mean, we've had a lot of bad escort missions in the history of video games, right? But you know, Resident Evil 4. You know, Eco. Those are escort mission games.
I know.
They're greatest of all time games. Drunken Merchant brings up a really good point in chat, and that he's saying that Code Veronica is like would have been a much better candidate for a remake, because that's a game that doesn't hold up as well. It's hard to go back to. Resident Evil 4 didn't quote unquote need this, you know. So like, why?
I will say this: we probably need to move on from Resident Evil 4 at this point. But I do think that Code Veronica remake is inevitable.
There's probably been
I don't know.
Now.
I think Code Veronica is the next.
Skipped over it.
I mean, they're doing the numbered entries right now, and I don't know if remaking Resident Evil 5 makes a ton of sense. Maybe it does. I don't know. We'll have to see how Resident Evil 4 pans out.
I think at a certain point, it just becomes diminishing returns. I don't think they would bother doing 5.
No.
Well, I think it's all going to kind of hinge upon how Resident Evil 4 does, but it's Resident Evil 4, widely considered to be like one of the greatest games of all time. Like, I don't think it's going to have any trouble selling, no matter how it turns out. But the trailer is cool. I'm glad that it's kind of official. We're going to get our first look at it, like gameplay. I think on the Capcom's doing a thing on next Monday on the 13th. So by this time next week, we should have more to say about it, because we'll have actually seen it in action, and maybe by that time we'll have a better idea of like where the changes are going to come in.
Can I say one final thing? Not only does Resident Evil 4 like really hold up and has had a lot of like modern HD, you know, remakes, both fan and official, but like that Armature developed Resident Evil VR that came out last year for Oculus is fucking excellent. Amazing. And that's even more of a reason why this feels not necessary. But It is.
I think they can totally. I think they can totally justify this game's existence as long as they lean into the things that, as long as they
make it different.
Give it its own identity while not drifting so far away that it doesn't feel like Resident Evil 4 anymore. And I've seen a lot of people. This is going to come up in the questions later about. Do you think they're going to work in some of that Resident Evil 3.5 demo stuff that we saw way before Resident Evil 4 became what it was? We'll talk about that in the question segment because I think those are some.
It's a good question.
Good questions. The subject matter of that demo that we saw years and years and years ago seems more in line with what this game now looks like. So we'll talk about it.
I tell you what I'm really hoping out of this. That one of the best things about Resident Evil 4 wasn't necessarily the game, but the demo that they released before it, which was just like the up to the village and the title screen popping up.
Yeah.
That moment, that demo experience.
I forgot they even released a demo.
It was absolutely incredible for what it was. So, like, if Capcom really wanted to do this game proper, they would release, like, a similar version of that demo for this game.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, especially... It is, but, like, there's an art to building hype for a game, and a demo... The demo of like the village sequence would be really effective, I think, at getting people super hyped. Although I don't think that's necessary at this point because Resident Evil 4 is so like legendary now as far as
but Resident Evil 7 and 8 didn't need demos, but they got them.
That's true. That's fair. All right. Next up, what else do we have in the state of play? We've already kind of talked about the.
Real quick before we move on from Resident Evil, whatever happened to that deathmatch shooter they were doing?
Oh, they're going to talk about that next week.
Oh, God.
That is part of the Capcom presentation they're doing next week.
They've done so many of these.
My God.
Umbrella Corps?
Yeah, but this one's like...
Bad.
This one's like all the famous characters from the franchise, right?
And it also kind of looked like a mobile game. Not that that's necessarally...
Hey now.
Resident Evil 5 straight up.
Diablo is on mobile now, okay? So
I know.
Just calm down.
Have you tried that, Crispy? I was kind of hoping you'd have
my roommate is playing it, and I'm seriously considering trying the PC version. But I'm not excited about it. Like, it really feels... But I have been watching content about it, and a lot of people are like, monetization is out of control, but if you don't care about that, it's pretty fun.
Pretty cool.
Like, it's pretty cool.
If you got $110,000, it's a really good game.
Well,
right,
they have the real money auction house.
We go to
real money auction house. Sorry.
Yeah.
So here's a question. The way these first two Resident Evil games, of course, the remake of 4, and then they talked about... Are we still talking about
Resident Evil?
Well, no, what I want to ask, we can move on, but before we move on, they said that the games have VR content. It's a
they
weird
weren't specific about that.
Like, am I going to be able to play these whole games in VR?
They were very specific with their wording of that, so I don't even know if I mean they're not willing to say one way or the other at this point.
I'm gonna say the village content is full gameplay VR that you can do.
Okay.
For 4, I wouldn't put it past them to do the same.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if that VR campaign support isn't there at launch. Like,
okay, what about the cat game? Later. Let's go to the cat game.
Let's talk about Stray.
Is there much to say about this game, though?
No, I mean, other than it looks cute as hell and it's like cool cyber. I mean, I don't know, man. We haven't really seen gameplay of this, but now we've seen a little cat walking around the cyberpunk world. It's just,
I guess we haven't seen.
We haven't really seen its gameplay. It looks like a platformer where you play as a cat.
Isn't that whole trailer gameplay?
I mean, this is. The original trailer wasn't. It was like like a pre-rendered thing. But like, yeah, look at this. He's like little. I don't know. I want to know what that backpack is that he's wearing and like.
Why?
What is
it looks like people are afraid of him.
Yeah, everybody's definitely afraid of cats.
Well, they're all robots. They're not people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard somebody else on another podcast talking about this because I wasn't really certain, but apparently, like, this is like a world inhabited by robots, and like they're afraid of living creatures, right. Like actual, like non, like they're afraid of sentient creatures.
Organic.
Organic creatures. So like yeah, it seems like the robots are afraid of this cat that's roaming around because everybody
So
else
wait,
is
the cat
robots.
has a backpack?
Yeah,
Yeah.
look at are you watching the
How the
footage? Look
fuck
at
does
him.
he get it on and off?
Like in some of the gameplay, but it also looks like it changes because like at one point it's just kind of like this little loop, and then there's one where there's like a box or a screen on the back.
Yeah, I know Brad's
can't
asking
wait
the
to-
hard-hitting questions, and I think somebody probably put the backpack on him, like a robot, like
Yeah,
put it on him and sent him on a mission.
can't wait
Okay.
to upgrade my cat.
Or what if it's just like an intelligent cat, like like Ein from Cowboy Bebop?
Oh shit! What if the thing on his back is like the thing from Doug the dog that lets him talk, like the collar? Like what if he
Okay,
can?
you can be a smart talking animal, but that doesn't mean your arms bend a certain way that you can put a backpack on and take it off.
I think somebody else put the backpack on him, Brad.
Cats are
Either that.
famously dexterous.
You know what? Watch them not explain how they put the backpack on the cat, and that's the reason Brad can't play it. It's just
Maybe
like,
the
it's too
cats in this
immersion breaking.
universe have opposable thumbs. It's really gross.
Also, confirmed there is a meow button.
Yes, that
And
is
you
the
can-
most important part of this game. Yes.
You can also meow there's like a button to make you meow louder. So like if someone's trying to talk to you, you can like intentionally meow over them. That's what I hear. I don't
It's
know.
basically
This-
the honk button from Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah, but you know what? This looks cool. It looks like it has platforming and it's like cool cyberpunk city.
Is this shit coming out this year or
July
is there-
19th.
Yeah,
Are
next
there
month.
any
July
games
19th,
coming out
next
this
month.
year?
That is
Okay.
next month.
The cat game.
I am.
Is that coming on a disc? Can I rent that?
It's actually
is-
getting a physical release.
All right.
But only through not
I made
limited
that.
run, but yeah, I made Bit's doing a limited release.
oh wait,
but
no, that works. On
It's
release?
also coming to PC,
okay.
so that's worth mentioning.
Cool.
But yeah, this game looks rad. What else do we have?
Dead Space
I'm gonna-
knockoff.
Okay.
Can we
the
not
PUBG
call it
game.
that? Can we give it a
The
little bit
PUBG
more credit
game.
than that?
The
That is
PUBG
what it is.
game.
First of all, they came out this past week and said it is officially no longer part of the PUBG universe.
They don't get to decide that, okay? Like,
They
whatever.
only created that universe. They can
It's
decide
the
whatever.
PUBG game.
I specifically want to start this conversation by saying I'm a big Dead Space fan. This looks so incredibly like Dead Space, it's not even funny. But I'm also totally cool with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And also because like when this game was announced, the Dead Space remake wasn't announced, and I'm sure Glenn Schofield and Striking Distance Studios, the guys that are making this, probably had no idea that EA was planning on doing a remake or making a sequel. So like the timing seems unfortunate, and now it seems like they're trying to beat each other to market. Which, you know, is good for Dead Space fans. We're eating well, I suppose. But yeah, this game, they've finally shown some gameplay of it, and they're going to get like an actual gameplay demonstration at the presentation tomorrow, the Summer Games Fest thing tomorrow. So we'll see like an actual chunk of gameplay. But yeah, you know, I read that cover article, and I said this last time during my 4-player minute. I read the cover article, and at that time I was like, you know, everything he's saying here, I'm into, but like there's nothing about this that doesn't sound like this is Dead Space to me. And now that I've seen it in motion, totally Dead Space. Like he has the fucking health meter on his back. It's like, you know, these necromorph looking creatures are called biophage. Come on. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be things that are different. Also, the cover story talked about you have something, I forgot what it's called, but it allows you to like essentially gives you like force powers, but it's like a tool for the people that work at this prison that allows them to move like heavy objects, whatever, but you're using that as a weapon. So like
So
that
it's
sounds
Dead
just
Space
like
2.
stasis. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
stasis. So yeah, like they're definitely leaning on Dead Space, but it also at the same time looks like a game. As someone who has not had a Dead Space game in some time, I totally get them wanting to kind of fill that void, right?
It's a Bloodstained. This is a Bloodstained.
But like, here's the difference: Bloodstained looks bad.
What?
You know-
Shut up!
No, I mean
It
Bloodstained
does not.
doesn't look bad. But I mean, that's
Wait,
does
Brett,
not.
you specifically said it looked bad, like quote unquote.
You're right.
Oh,
Why
you're
are you...
okay. Sorry, I thought you were saying Bloodstained doesn't look bad, but I misheard you.
No.
I'm just saying,
you're
like
picking
this.
fights with no one, Nick.
Maybe I am.
The
I
point
learned
is
from the best, Brad.
Bloodstained was Castlevania in any all but name,
and it was good.
They were like, "Fuck it, this is what people want. I can't make the official one anymore." So here you go.
I would imagine it was probably. I would imagine it was probably very frustrating for the team working in this game when that Dead Space remake was announced, because they were probably like, "Really? You waited all this time, and now is when you chose to announce that?" Like, they probably thought they were going to fill that Dead Space shaped hole in people's hearts, and then they announced a Dead Space remake.
Well, this supposedly comes out at the end of the year, so I mean,
this comes out December 2nd or 3rd, according that's their target right now, anyways. And I hope
the way things are going, it's probably not going to be this year.
Why do you say that?
Because everything is being delayed to 2023.
I will say this: the people who played it at Game Informer for the cover story were saying they were genuinely surprised by how kind of polished it looked at the state, because they were like, we've seen games before at this state for cover stories that didn't look anywhere near ready for prime time, and they said what they saw, although albeit was probably a vertical slice and probably what we're going to end up seeing tomorrow, but it looked very, very polished. So I don't know. I mean, somebody has to come out first, and they're probably both desperate to get their game out first. So I could see them trying to hit December and then releasing it maybe and it needing some patches. Maybe. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but we'll see. Either way, I'm excited to play it because I do have a Dead Space shaped hole in my heart, and this looks like it's going to fill it.
I mean, survival horror fans are going to be doing really well because December we get this, in January we get the Dead Space remake, and then in March we get Resident Evil 4. So,
by the way, this is why Resident Evil 4 should stay silly, because every horror game and their brother has the same fucking like dark, serious, spooky. You need something a little out there. So don't make everything the same.
But like, you're again saying,
don't be a boring horror
You're
fan.
Again arguing your own point, saying like it's not worth. It's there's no point in making Resident Evil 4 again. But now you're saying they should make it like Resident Evil 4, when that's kind of the opposite of what they should be doing, right? They should be giving it its own identity. But whatever.
Yeah, but not like the boring identity that we've been getting from every other horror game out there.
Different strokes for different folks, I guess. I don't know. I'm super.
There's different reasons to do a remake other than a tonal shift. Like,
true.
Sure, but like there are. It also, to some extent, almost feels like they're trying to kind of. They're trying to like unify.
Nick, I got a hypothetical for you. Sorry, I'm going to run over you a little bit here.
Please. You mean like... Okay.
So you're like, oh yeah, dude, let's take Resident Evil 4 and make it all
You're going to throw me under the bus?
Serious.
Oh, no.
No, just listen to me. Let's take Resident Evil 4 and make it all dark and serious and spooky and shit. What if the Last of Us remake actually went the other direction? They went silly and campy and goofy. Would you be cool with that?
Does it also
Shut
look
the
good?
fuck up, you liar. Shut up. No, because you're the kind of horror fan that always wants it a certain way. You never want it to go in the other direction.
That is not true. That is absolutely 100% not true. Brad, I know I said this to you in Discord, but I think it's a fair analogy. I just spent like a week and a half barreling through the entirety of Stranger Things on Netflix. And while that is a horror... I would call that a horror series, but it's also very fun and funny and camp. Like it's...
Yeah, I mean, I read Goosebumps.
It's great. I fucking love the tone and the atmosphere of that. There's no reason why those two things can't live in harmony. Like...
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I think Resident Evil 4 Remake could be the same way.
Goofy Last of Us.
Sure.
It balances out... It balances out the horror genre.
But I feel like you're only saying that because you want to see me suffer.
Dude, I'd love to fucking see that.
All right,
and I want to see your reaction to it.
I would also love to see that. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I would love to see it.
Lying. You're lying, Nick. All right, let's talk about Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. All right, take it from here, Brad.
What did y'all at least watch this? I mean, y'all
watched
this.
Yeah. We all watched the presentation.
Dude, this is...
Dude, I'm like FGC.
Street Fighter's going back to the street.
It's like literally, like open world and shit.
Game audio. Again, Chris Davis.
Never be the same again.
Yeah, no Street Fighter. You know, it's a new this, you know, good on them, right? Street Fighter V wasn't like super well received at launch, and then it was even in the competitive scene, people were kind of like down on Street Fighter V. This
Our
is like
cameras are kind of fucked up.
This is a bold new direction in a lot of ways, from like the look and the tone and the fact that you're like running around there's like a single player like open world campaign mode where you're like hitting the streets and getting into fights and like beating up crates and shit, and you're probably going to beat up a car at some point. Like, that's crazy, but like I'm all for it, right? Like in Street Fighter V, they launched that campaign mode late, and it was just some like bad knockoff of like the Mortal Kombat, like, you know, fight to fight with like cinematic scenes, but it was like bad and boring. And this is cool, and you know, this is sort of a new era. Like, the characters look very different than the newer characters look very different. They leaked the entire roster, whether it's Capcom or someone else leaked the entire roster, and like all the returning characters that are on that list have like really cool new looks. Like, nobody has like their kind of old look. And
is
the
this
new
gameplay
characters
we're seeing right now, is this like an actual like fight, or is that just fancy cutscenes?
I don't know what you're seeing, but there is fight footage, of course, in the
supposedly
in the
like
trailer.
that versus when they're walking up and doing things like that. That's supposedly like the intro to a versus match fight.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, there's when you see punches and kicks flying, like, that's actual, you know, fight footage, and you know, it has a cool look to it. There's like paint like splatters and shit when you're doing like various counters and stuff, and it seems like people who are into like, you know, the competitive scenes are kind of psyched by some of the new like systems that they can like that they've observed in like this trailer and some of the other leaked footage. Like, there's, you know, like, people love parries, right? I mean, look at the, you know, the reason Daigo versus, you know, Justin Wong is such a famous video game competitive clip is because parries are fucking cool, and parrying all of Chun-Li's kicks are cool, right? So anytime somebody sees like parries and counters and, you know, FADCs, whatever the fuck comes back, I mean, like, I don't know, people are stoked. The new look, the new vibe, there's a new energy, you know, the systems look cool.
It's
like,
kind of open world, right?
The campaign is open world. It's
like, obviously that kind of gets my attention to some extent, and I've dabbled in fighting games before. I feel like I'm gonna dabble in this kind of the way I dabble in like Mortal Kombat. Like, I get excited, I play Mortal Kombat for like 2 weeks, I don't finish it, but like I enjoy my time that I spent with it, and I feel like I'm gonna probably at least do that with this game, because I do like what they're going for here. It's bold. Yeah,
they finally recast Chun-Li as an actual Asian actress, which is good.
Okay,
so I don't know. It's this. I don't know. People are excited, and I actually think this looks pretty good, pretty cool.
Is this supposed to come out this year?
No, next year.
Does anything come out this year?
No.
Come on. Yeah.
Man.
So I don't know. I'm
2022 is falling apart.
I'm kind of excited, right? Because I feel like a lot of the more respected fighting games, the ones that people take very seriously, you know, that are the big tournament games, like you know, like Street Fighter, like your Tekkens or whatever, they usually have like, especially these days, really bad like single player content, and they're kind of like designed for, you know, esports, the competitive games. And then you have like Mortal Kombat, which, you know, is still played at a competitive level, but like for someone who doesn't want to just fight other people online, like, there's a lot to like fuck around with in a Mortal Kombat game, and I think that's why they always sell better than any other fighting game, you know, because they've reached the casual, you know, mainstream market by just being a fun single player game as well as, you know, a good multiplayer game. And I feel like it's nice to see Street Fighter kind of going after that a little bit, because, you know, Street Fighter hasn't had a good single player mode since Alpha 3, so this is cool to see. I'm excited. So yeah.
I mean, you actually have confirmation there's going to be like an actual story, or like,
I mean,
is
probably
it just like,
I don't know, but I will say we're supposed to see more of this. Capcom is holding a big event next week where they're going to go deeper on all of these games, and, you know, hopefully show Dragon's Dogma 2 as well, maybe a sneak tease, whatever.
I think Capcom's thing said it was focused on games
the fuck
that
up, Nick.
have
You don't
been
know.
announced. But
you don't know.
But
there's always a one more thing.
But things could be announced at the thing tomorrow, which would then be talked about in more depth on Monday. Because tomorrow's thing is an hour and a half long, and they got to fill it with something. Which apparently,
but Jeff Keighley's already
Grubb,
been like downplaying it and saying,
"Yeah, like temper your expectations."
Yeah.
Well, but how much of that is...
No one would say temper your expectations if they knew Dragon's Dogma 2 was going to be there. So,
but like, how much of that is trying to like set people's expectations lower so that they can blow people out of the water? You know what I mean? Like how much of that is real? How much of that is real? I feel like he said that before, and it was like,
Nick,
he was
you
trying
sound
to...
like a drug addict.
Yeah.
Okay, the hype. There's no hype, Nick.
I'm addicted to fucking hype, man. I'm addicted to fucking hype. Okay.
I mean, when Keighley finally got that Elden Ring trailer, he was not downplaying shit. He was posting stuff all over social media going, oh my God, so whatever.
Well, I will say this. Jeff Grubb did say today that he doesn't know much about what's going to happen tomorrow, but he did say that he has pretty much confirmed that Fable and Perfect Dark will not be there.
No, he's talking about the Xbox event next week.
Oh, that's right. That's the Xbox. So we have two events. We have the Summer Game Fest and then the Xbox event. The Xbox event could have Dragon's Dogma.
That's a little bit of a...
The Xbox event is actually, it's two parts. There's the main presentation, then the next day, there's another presentation.
Yeah, but that's still, again, kind of like Capcom.
Regardless, it would be kind of embarrassing
they already announced.
for them. It'd be kind of embarrassing for them not to have Fable. I mean, come the fuck on, dude.
We're gonna talk about Summer Game Fest stuff later. Let's get through the state of play. I want to talk about the last like major thing, right? Or is there something I'm missing?
There's a big thing. How they ended the show.
Yeah. No, that's the last thing.
Yeah.
So they closed out the show.
Opinions.
Here we go. Okay, Brad, can you do your best not to derail this conversation with your controversial opinions? Because we'll be here forever.
What do you mean? That is the conversation. We're talking about the game that they showed.
I don't want to spend the next 20 minutes talking about the way the characters look. Final Fantasy XVI.
Well, I mean, what?
I think you're wrong.
We're here to talk about the game that they showed us.
They showed us a trailer for Final Fantasy XVI, and they gave it a release date of summer 2023. So it's missing this year. That's unfortunate, but it's good to see that it's coming.
Look. I'm not going to talk all night about this. I just want to say, because I've been getting a lot, like people were up in arms about this shit. Just because I think the character models look like, character creator, generic MMO trash, whatever, does not mean I'm not excited about this game. I've been excited about this game. It's been on the top of my most anticipated list for the past 2 years, and I'm still very, very excited about this game. Even though it is a lot more Devil May Cry than I was hoping. How do you feel about that?
Okay, I haven't. Okay, so there's a lot of involvement with people who worked on Final Fantasy XIV, which is obviously one reason to be excited about this game.
Yeah, that's the reason to be excited.
Yeah, and that's
what would either of you know of it?
I mean, I've
played 20 hours of it. And God, I wish that game was a single player game. And here we go. This is what Final Fantasy 16 is, baby.
Yes.
No, because this is a Devil May Cry action game in combat.
No. But here's the thing. There's so many other components to a Final Fantasy game than just the way the combat works. And I haven't been a fan of Final Fantasy combat, honestly, probably since Final Fantasy X. So, like...
Sure, but we're talking about what we're seeing in the trailer, and they showed three things. They showed bad character models, which we've moved on from. They showed
you fucking asshole. You fucking asshole.
Listen to me. They showed this action combat, right? And then they showed lots and lots of stuff with summon.
Yes,
it was a summons trailer. It was a trailer about the summons.
Yes, it was.
So what?
And
like.
But the thing
they
is,
were even like singing that fucking song that was all their names,
and that was cool. That was cool, right? But like the trailer was definitely oops all summons, and like the important part is like a lot of what was showing had like HUD had like.
Did you say oops all summons?
Listen to me,
fucking Jesus.
A lot of what we saw, which might as well have been like cinematics or whatever, had like life bars and shit. So. I think they're suggesting that a very large part of this game is whatever the summon combat is. And
yes, absolutely.
How interesting could that be? I don't know. I mean, I guess it looks cool, but
as someone
what is that? Are they showing us boss fights? Are they showing us,
I mean, they're probably not like the Guardian Force fights from what was it, 10? I think it was.
No, it doesn't look like that.
I've heard a lot of interesting rumors or thoughts about this.
Those are like set story piece moments, really. I think. I think these are reactions to how they handled summons in the Final Fantasy VII Remake
and 15.
And well, I didn't play 15. I couldn't tell you. So
I'm trying to remember.
They handled them poorly. Let me just say, as somebody who the thing that got me interested in Final Fantasy to begin with were summons in Final Fantasy VII, and that love of summons has followed me throughout this entire franchise. So seeing the summons play such a huge role in both the story and the combat is amazing. I've heard some interesting theories about this though, because they only show one playable character in the trailer, and obviously having a party of team members has always been kind of we would assume so. They haven't shown it, but there's talk about like the entourage you have being like the summons, and they are like you are traveling around collecting them, and they're like inside of you. Does that make sense?
Inside of you.
I don't like that party combat is not in this, really. I mean,
at least in the trailer. In the trailer, there's still like almost a year's worth of build up to this game that we have. And this trailer was very cinematic and very focused on summons, so we don't know. They showed basically kaiju fights, which is crazy.
Do you know why all this summon shit kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth? It's because this is what like a Realm Reborn was all about. It was all about these fucking summons. And like a Realm Reborn, it's not controversial to say, was kind of lame. And now I feel like it's the people who make Final Fantasy XIV making an RPG, Final Fantasy, and it's all about these fucking summons again.
Like the whole icons and the summons and like the gods and everything, like that is a recurring element through all the stories, and that stuff gets like really cool.
I believe you. But again,
like that is what I think. That's a big reason. I think that's a big reason to be excited, is because oh my god, they're doing a story about icons. Like that's fucking cool, because everything else they've done has been awesome.
I will say this.
Why do you call them icons?
The weird thing?
Because that's what they call them. That's what they call them in this, and that's what the Garlands call them in 14.
And like in Final Fantasy 9, they're called Eidolons. So like it's EI something. So like this one is called Icons, and that's just what they refer to them as. But
something different in all of them.
Yeah. But they usually, like a lot of times they start with whatever. One thing this trailer doesn't show a lot of, but they've been like tweeting screenshots of outside of this, which I thought was strange, is kind of like the world and the exploration and stuff. And like this trailer doesn't give you a lot of insight into that, but like the screenshots they've been showing show some of those like really beautiful like open vistas and stuff that you'll be exploring. And
if they would have just showed a little bit of that stuff of people running around the land all day, just a little bit of that cut in there. I don't think this was like this trailer was just a lot of cuts, a lot of summons, a lot of Devil May Cry, and then it was over, right? Well, it had the cool song at the end. But like, if they just spliced in a couple of like, hey, this is a world, look at this dude running around this world, I would have been like so much more excited. But where I stand now, I think that first trailer that came out ages ago is actually better. I think the combat looks more exciting in that, because they didn't have all the HUD, just blocking your view of everything. And I was a little bummed out. I was super excited about this game, and this trailer bummed me out in a way I was not expecting. And
there is a lot of talk around that HUD, and I think there's going to be customization options, and there's a lot of time for them to get feedback on this HUD before it comes out. I don't.
But as someone who's playing Vagrant Story, where like doing over 30 damage is like super exciting. I hate that in modern Final Fantasy games and a lot of modern RPGs, damage numbers has just become like flare, like a visual effect. You're not even actually reading those numbers. It's not actually information that's being communicated to the player in any sort of like useful way. It's just like a visual effect that gets in the way. And there's a part where he's like welling on some dude, and all you can see is this flurry of numbers, and it's just that's just an effect that makes it so I can't see what the fuck is going on. And I just wish it wasn't like
you will almost certainly also be able to turn those off especially if they truly are just kind of a visual effect.
Sure, but even when they're handled poorly, I almost would always rather see numbers.
So, it's coming in just under a year from now. There's plenty of time to get updates on it. I'm glad we have a release date, or at least release window. And while this trailer kind of bummed Brad out a little bit, it didn't necessarily blow my socks off, but I will say this: it still has me more excited, I think, than I ever felt for like Final Fantasy XV. Which that's
sure.
That's reason to be hopeful.
By the time Final Fantasy 15 came out, it was kind of but that had had a vibe. At least you had a party members, right?
I think those things are coming. We'll get there. We need to move on. That covers the state of play for the most part. Quite honestly, really good show. There's a few other cool things that we didn't really talk about. Roller Drome looked pretty neat. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but like still
the Ollie world
cool
people.
Style.
That looks really cool.
Tony Hawk with guns. It was Tony Hawk eventually.
With like
and
a
roller
cool
skates.
art style and everything.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
They revealed the Horizon VR game Call of the Mountain is not on rails. It is like a full-blown like 3D exploration game in VR. Like, looks rad.
Just like Fable the Journey.
Cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. So I was really pleased with the way that show turned out. But now
I feel like people had big expectations. There was no God of War. There was no Dragon stuff.
Well, they specifically said third-party stuff, and that's what this was. It was third-party stuff. There was really no first-party stuff, with the exception of, I guess you would call, is Guerrilla owned by Sony, or is that technically still third-party? I think they're owned by Sony.
They're owned.
Yeah,
owned by Sony.
So they said third-party and PlayStation VR stuff. So if it was first-party, it was also because it was VR. So they delivered what they said.
Evidently may not make this year.
So that is also
Nothing's
a rumor.
Making this year. I thought 16 would come out this year because Yoshi P's been saying all this shit of like, the next time you see this game, next time we show off this game, don't expect it to be that much longer till release or whatever. That's what all the word was.
Realistically speaking, summer of 2023 doesn't seem like that far off.
Bullshit.
But I see what you're saying. 2022 summer, or the end of 2022, is kind of falling apart a little bit. So especially when it started so strong. Vincent Graves is in chat, says that rumor has been debunked.
Oh, it has?
So I don't know.
Good.
I hope so. There's a good chance they might announce a release date for Ragnarok tomorrow. A lot of stuff could happen tomorrow. So, Brad,
also,
here's the deal.
Real quick, Chris, the VR mode for No Man's Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Already exists, but is getting upgraded to VR 2.
Oh.
Yep. Also, I thought it was strange that they're showing all
I've
this VR
played it in
stuff,
VR, and it's awesome. Like, it's
they
really
haven't
cool.
said it. They haven't said anything about that headset yet, as far as like a release date and pricing or anything. So, but they're straight up like dedicating state of plays to it, which is strange. But that's neither here nor there. So Brad, there are other news topics this week, but I do want to make sure we have a little bit of time to talk about our expectations and predictions for Summer Game Fest. So, do you want to quickly mention your Sonic Frontiers thing? Because I feel like we're obligated to at least mention that.
What does that have to do? That doesn't have anything to do with Summer Games Fest, but they did finally kind of show off quote unquote gameplay of that, and I kind of want to show footage of it because I don't know if y'all seen it, but we
could grab the footage during the break. We can grab that footage during the break.
You know how when
I can try.
Like fans make like, dude, this is Mario in the Unreal Engine. This is what Mario would look like in the Unreal Engine if it wasn't on a Nintendo. And it's got all these like weird like realistic assets, and it's not even a game. It's just Mario running around like Unreal Engine assets, and it's never gonna be more than that. It's not a fucking video game. It's just some like stupid fans like idea of what Mario would be with better graphics. Dude, this game has that vibe so hard. It's just it's Sonic running around.
I watched that footage for you,
look
Brad.
like Sonic at all, and it's just
as someone who has
goofy.
gives almost no fucks about Sonic in any form. I watched that footage, and there's a few things where I was just like, well, one, I thought Sonic was supposed to be fast. Didn't seem very fast, except for a few moments. And two, what's up with the music? Like, doesn't Sonic, historically
Different
speaking,
vibe,
have like this
man.
like bomb ass, like really like techno, like fast paced?
No, like they're going for like
music?
a Shadow of the Colossus thing. It's like Sonic is
they
alone
don't want that.
in
They're
his
going for
den.
Breath of the Wild.
Everything about that.
Like
No.
the piano. The piano
No,
is in there.
They're
weird.
saying it's more. It's not really like that.
I will say this.
Apparently, like this game is supposed to come out this year, or something, and that game looked like something that was you show off to try to find a publisher or whatever. Like that did not look like a game that looked like it was anywhere close to being complete.
I don't have a lot to say about it,
like
and I'm also not a
Beyond Good
huge.
Evil
I don't have a lot to say about it, and I don't consider myself a Sonic expert by any stretch of the imagination. But the word that I kept thinking to myself while I was watching this gameplay was, what it needs is some cohesion, because it looks like somebody threw a bunch of Sonic paraphernalia at a wall and it just kind of stuck there, and then he's just running through it with like things are just kind of placed willy-nilly. It seems like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of design applied to the world.
Sonic games have always been structured as levels, not necessarily a full open world, and that's what they're going for this time. So, and they haven't figured out
them for it,
in the footage we've seen, like how to bridge the gap between playable areas in interesting ways.
Right, exactly, and I don't necessarily have a lot of faith that they're going to do that. Like the tracks in the sky look really awkward, but you know what? We've already talked too much about this. It looks weird. But also, at the same time, strangely, like maybe the only Sonic game I'd be interested in trying, and maybe that's purely because I love open world games, and that's
and that's why I recommended a Pokemon game to you, Nick, and look how that turned out.
Yep, you're right. You're absolutely fucking right. I will not pay money for the Sonic game. I will wait until it's like dirt cheap, and then maybe try it if people tell me it's worth trying, personally. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about Summer Game Fest before we take our break. I don't really have like a game plan as far as like how we approach this conversation, but there are several events coming up. Tomorrow being Jeff Keighley's main presentation. It's an hour and a half in the afternoon. It is, that's kind of where anything and everything can appear, because it's not focused on one single publisher. And then on Sunday, we had the Microsoft Bethesda showcase, which historically speaking have been pretty strong the past few years in terms of just showing new games to be excited about. So that's pretty cool. So let's talk about the thing tomorrow. Like you said earlier, Jeff Keighley is trying to kind of temper people's expectations, but this is also where, Sony, if there was Sony stuff, additional Sony stuff, like first party stuff, this is where that would probably show up.
Really? I see Sony just doing like another event later in the summer that focuses on first party stuff. I don't expect much Sony stuff to be there. I feel like the Jeff Keighley thing is there's going to be a couple of new announcements, probably indies that have, slightly larger budgets that look slightly more like a AAA game, but they're still indie. He likes to show those. He's your No Man's Skies, if you will. He and probably like looks at games that we already are aware of, but he's actually got like a gameplay trailer of. But as far as like big announcements,
there's got to be one or two of them. Like there's going to be something. There's always something, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's just trying. I think he's trying to. When he's tempering expectations, he's trying to prevent you from expecting like an hour and a half of announcements. You know what I mean? But like, there's going to be 2 or 3 things there.
I believe what he said on social media was that this isn't the Game Awards. Don't expect the kind of reveals you expect at the Game Awards. And I'm thinking about the Game Awards going, those are kind of mid as well. So if this is sub Game Awards, then I don't know, man.
I mean, to be honest, I think the show to really be looking forward to out of all these is the thing on Sunday, the Xbox Bethesda thing. I think we're going to get our first look at Starfield, like actual gameplay of it.
Of course.
I think going to be some announcements there.
They're going to lean a lot on Starfield. But, I don't know.
I think they're going to show Contraband
like them not having
for the first time.
Sure, Contraband. Yeah, that's the Avalanche game. Not having Fable is really tragic if true. Because what the fuck, dude? Like, there was a time when that was like one of the first party IP that you bought an Xbox for, and it's been so fucking long, Jesus, since what, Fable 3, and you know, are we gonna see that Rare game? You know, people.
Oh,
Rare,
that was like restart. They basically restarted development on that, right? You're talking about Everwild?
They mentioned that like fucking years ago at this point. I mean, come on, is it not time to show something? You know, it's not like they threw art assets in the trash. I'm sure there's something to show.
Again, I want to reiterate, because for people in chat, Jeff Grubb came out and said that he doesn't know much of anything about this. He's usually a big source of insider information and stuff, but he did say that the two things that he can confirm is that Fable and Perfect Dark are no-show, which is kind of a bummer, but at the same time, that leaves room for other things to be announced. And, you know, historically speaking, I would say the last like 3 or 4 years, even the last 2 E3s that we went to, Microsoft's E3 press conference, quote unquote, showcase, have historically been very packed, like jam-packed with game announcements. And that's what I like to see. So, you know, it's a bit of a trade-off. I would love to see Fable, especially knowing that it's from the guys, it's being done by a studio that's known for doing racing games. Like, I want to see how that translates, how they make that jump. But
calling Forza Horizon a racing game at this point is a bit. I mean, they're open world games.
Now, one of the things that has been all but confirmed at this point is that the original GoldenEye from the Nintendo 64 is expected to be released soon, if not shadow dropped this Sunday. So,
but are we talking about a remake or like the original?
No, like remember that Rare Replay Perfect Dark port they did several years back? Basically, that same level of quality put into GoldenEye.
But do we want that?
Yes, yes. One of the most important first-person games, let alone games on the N64 of all time.
Don't get me wrong. I played the living fuck out of GoldenEye on the 64.
Yes.
I
think we all did.
It's just not blowing up any skirts, I don't think. You know, it's kind of that's more of a that's nice. Yeah,
I mean, there's also like a very storied history behind trying to get that game ported to other systems.
Sure,
and
it has a lot to do with licensing too.
I mean, we're probably going to see when that game boots up a Nintendo logo pop up on this Xbox game. So,
you know, I am I think Brad's description is apt. It'll be that's nice, and I'll play it. I'll be happy. But it will be nice. That's about it.
Whatever, dude.
There's rumors about
which one of these is going to have Dragon's Dogma 2. That's what's fucking important.
If anything, Xbox and Bethesda on Sunday.
Sure. Also, which one of these is going to have, you know, the new unveiling of Beyond Good and Evil 2? You know, that's definitely a thing, right?
All right, troll. So here's the thing that's happening.
You know, Ubisoft is trolling.
The past couple days, there's been some rumors leaking out about Kojima's next game, and we all know Kojima and Keighley are like best buds, so there's a good chance that one of the big surprises of tomorrow's show could be Kojima's next project, which is supposedly a horror game called Overdose, or codenamed Overdose. I don't know.
Starring one of the actresses from Death Stranding,
right?
The one who plays Mama.
Mama, yeah. I don't remember I apologize. I don't remember the actress's real name, but she played Mama in Death Stranding.
That's the fucking news that we keep forgetting to bring up.
What?
That Death Stranding 2 got
Margaret Qualley is her name.
That Death Stranding 2 more or less got announced accidentally by Norman Reedus.
We mentioned that
interview.
I
think we mentioned it in passing.
I don't think it ever came up on the podcast.
Well, that's a thing. It's not. I don't think that's going to be announced tomorrow or anything. I think if anything, his next project
that's happening.
But like, you know, they've been working on something new since dropping Death Stranding and the director's cut and whatnot. So it's not completely unrealistic to think that they're going to unveil their new IP tomorrow. Here's what I want to know, and I think I already know the answer to this question, and it crushes my soul. Is there any chance one of these Silent Hill projects shows up anywhere this week? Probably not.
Definitely.
Dude, Bloober Team is teasing a new Layers of Fear, man. They're supposed to be announcing the Silent Hill 2 remake. What the fuck?
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at another State of Play. I don't think it's going to happen at Microsoft, and there's no, like, Konami's not going to be doing anything, so it's got to be at a State of Play, I think.
I know, which they haven't announced
There's
yet.
multiple projects. I mean, there's 3 rumored projects, so we could theoretically see any one of those tomorrow.
I could.
why not?
You know, you're talking about smaller, like higher budget indie games. I could see Annapurna's like episodic Silent Hill game popping up as one of the things that tomorrow's thing. Perhaps
Plague Tale
more
2.
likely. Plague Tale 2 is going to be shown off at Tribe.
Sure.
Oh, I think
that's a known quantity.
Yeah, that's a known quantity.
That's the kind of shit that shows up at a Keighley thing, though.
Sure. We are going to get our first gameplay demonstration of the Calisto protocol, which, again, excited about, but it's going to be Dead Space as fuck.
Also, what
if they show that and the Dead Space remake?
I'm sorry?
Huh?
So what if they show that and the Dead Space remake in the same show?
I mean,
Joseph
EA
Fares
doesn't have
doesn't need
anything scheduled, right? They're not doing a show.
No, they're not doing anything official.
Okay, so if they're going to happen, that's going to be at Microsoft. I don't think they
probably.
want to do anything with Keighley in them.
Oh, Pragmata. Isn't that the new...
That's the Capcom thing.
Yeah, that could be
Capcom,
shown off tomorrow
Spaceman,
or Bethesda.
and Downtown, whatever. I mean, I think they already delayed that or something. So, I don't know. It'd be nice to see what that is.
And Nintendo is still kind of quiet about this whole thing, so...
Nintendo will do something. I mean, they're just going to talk about it.
What about Silk Song, baby? Is this it?
I am
Maybe.
almost certain that's going to be at Keighley's thing.
You think?
Okay.
You think Silk Song is going to be shown tomorrow?
It's a weird game
I
to
think
be confident about. But
yeah, but that is a kind of game that he knows there's hype for, and he wants to be the person to show it off.
What about a shadow drop?
Oh, that's not happening.
Shut your damn mouth. That's not happening. That's not happening. If that happens, nobody will care if everything else at his presentation, if it's like lackluster. Like it'll be like his Elden Ring thing, which completely dominated the conversation last year. It'll be the show that shadow dropped Hollow Knight, like, which that's great. I would fucking love that. But yeah, I mean, this is such, we can move on. There's so much. There's so much uncertainty around this whole thing, and like certain expectations are wolves trying to be pulled over our eyes. So much expectations trying to be tempered. Like I don't know what to fucking think of this whole thing. I think Microsoft Bethesda's presentation on Sunday is probably going to be like where you're most likely going to see the most like announcements and like new shit. But still, I'm excited to watch the thing tomorrow. And of course, next week we'll have more to say about that stuff, which we'll have seen a lot of. So
and we're also going to be doing a live commentary over Microsoft, by the way.
Yeah. We'll be doing some live commentary of Microsoft on Sunday. Tomorrow, I think we're probably just
when is that on Sunday?
It's like noon.
The afternoon,
I think.
Noon our time?
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, I could maybe be on that.
Sweet.
My
tune
voice
in.
at least.
Come watch the Microsoft Bethesda thing with us on Sunday. We'll probably just maybe host the Summer Game Fest thing tomorrow, because I would commentate it, but I'm gonna be working because they decided to do this thing in the middle of the work week, bastards.
Also, Devolver is after Summer Games Fest tomorrow, so
Devolver's doing a thing.
We'll get 25 minutes of insane entertainment,
chaos, and some decent little announcements, which should be cool. But now let's take a break, guys. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of a few impressions. We'll answer a couple questions, and we'll wrap up with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Where do we go from here? we did news first segment, so of course I do want to, before we move on to community stuff, I would like to catch up. We haven't done a regular show in a couple weeks, so there's a few impressions we want to get out here. And Brad, you have a game that has not been mentioned on this podcast.
We're talking about games, huh?
Yeah. Games.
Your game looks very familiar.
This game was actually gifted to me by Chai Tai, and I have it every intention of playing it.
As was for me also. The interesting thing is he gifted it to me as a birthday gift, and he just gifted it to you because
it's
what
me.
Is that?
I think.
Damn you, Chai Tai.
That's true. That is absolutely. I mean,
he undercut my gift by also giving it to Nick.
In my defense, Brad, I too have a birthday. It just wasn't around at the time in which he gifted it to me.
Fuck.
All right, tell us about Nightmare Decay.
Nightmare of Decay, I think.
Is it Nightmare?
Yeah,
I thought it was just Nightmare Decay. Is there an
I think it's Nightmare of Decay.
Holy shit, this looks like Resident Evil 1.
Oh, it does. It's like a first.
Oh my god, look at the map.
It is.
Here's the
crazy.
Thing. Do you like classic Resident Evil?
I fucking love classic Resident Evil.
Before I even start talking about this shit, I gotta say, I'm having a real kind of crisis with talking about games, capturing footage, and talking about them on the podcast. I've been playing everything on my fucking Steam Deck, and then when I sit down to record footage, I move over to my PC, and none of the control stuff is configured properly. And none of the settings are right. So I and it's not how I've been playing the game. So this game has been playing really smooth and good for me, right? But the footage is not representative of that because it's just me sitting down, one take going to record stuff, and on these current settings, I'm I could barely.
Wait, Brad, are you having a crisis game. Are you finally having a crisis that's very similar to the crisis I always have while trying to record
it's different.
footage?
See, you're bad at games. What my issue is that I'm playing on a setup in settings that are different. I'm playing on a setup that's completely different and configured versus the one that I record on at the last second, before a podcast. And, like with Monster Hunter, I was really kind of struggling to even, function basically. So I've been running into that issue, and I need to just start recording directly from my Steam Deck. Because
Blobly in chat says Brad blaming the setup, a true fighting game.
No. The reason it's worth bringing up, and it's not some I died in the footage like Nick or whatever. It's that the footage is such that it makes it look like this game controls badly, but it doesn't. So I just want to put that disclaimer. There's a part where I'm just trying to pick up an item and I miss it 5 fucking times. That doesn't actually happen when I'm playing it on my Steam Deck. This is a last second. I haven't configured this game at all.
We get it. Tell us about this game.
I just want people to know that this is not as jank as it may look in this footage, because you assume when you see some low cost indie, it's like Resident Evil, that it might play kind of poorly, but it doesn't. This is very classic Resident Evil, and it plays well. I mean, and it has all the kind of stuff you're looking for in a classic Resident Evil, of the backtracking, the getting your keys, and it's almost kind of directly referential in a lot of ways. But it has the dude, it's not worth it. I just need to figure out how to run past these enemies. The first couple hours of the game are very much of that, which is very early.
That's my favorite
Resident
shit.
Evil. And the game has a stamina meter, and when it runs out, you go very slow. So it makes that stuff a little more interesting too. And then you eventually get to the underground or the sewers or the basement or whatever, where the corridors start to narrow, but you've gotten more ammo, so now it's time to fight, right?
Speaking of the corridors narrowing, the hallways in this mansion look enormous. Super high ceilings,
early
super
on when
wide.
you're in the mansion. Early on when you're in the mansion, it is like that. But, it starts out almost too faithful, to the point where it's well, this is, I've played this game, right? But the more you play, the more wild it starts to get. And then I realized this is not just an homage to Resident Evil 1. There's some Resident Evil 4 stuff in there. Some cultist guys showed up with guns and were shooting at me, and it definitely started to get a Resident Evil 4 kind of feel to it. And I'm this is kind of wild. And there's some strange surreal stuff in this game too. This fleshy arm came out of a wall and was hey, bring me three like ladies' heads or whatever, and it's like this whole side quest chain of like tracking down these heads that are completely unrelated to like the main path, and like there's some cool weird shit in here, and I'm enjoying it. Like this thing doesn't cost very much, and I know we see a lot of like indie horror games, but that a lot of those are just kind of like, you know, more like experience horror games and less like, you know,
games,
boots on the ground, Resident Evil action game, survive, you know, do some puzzles.
There is still something
rooms.
very, very special about the traditional, like classic Resident Evil or classic survival horror formula. That's why whenever like a modern game comes out and it like dares to like dabble in that classic formula, it's so special. Like that's why I think the Resident Evil 2 remake was so great. It's because it felt like a modern game that was really leaning on the traditional survival horror design philosophies that got their start with games like this.
This is a really good time. This is a really good time, and it's addictive in a way that like a classic Resident Evil can be when you're making like little bits of progress here and there. It doesn't have like a ribbon system, which, you know, honestly kind of thank God. Like there's enough like things that feel a little modern. Like you don't have your inventory restrictions and you could save as many times as you want, but everything else is so classic Resident Evil. And I think that sort of, you know, because it has those modern updates, like it makes it like paced like speedier than it did in those like older games, and it's just been really fun to kind of like play through this game so far. And honestly, I started playing this because, you know, I wanted something to talk about on the podcast, and Chai Tai, you know, gifted it to me, and I was like, well, you know, people, I mean, it's like overwhelmingly positive on Steam. People are like really enjoying this game, so I was like, okay, I'll just fuck around with this couple hours and talk about it, but and maybe not even finish it. Right? I was surprised to find that like this is a really fun game that I really want to finish, because the more I play, the weirder it's getting. And like I found a mimic chest, like straight out of
nice.
You know, a Dark Souls game or whatever, or like an RPG. It's not something you'd expect in a Resident Evil game. And when it happened, it scared the shit out of me. And I was like, oh, you know, time to bust out the shotgun.
So I have a question. So I know this is not strictly a Resident Evil like homage, but it very much is visually, at least.
It's wearing that on its sleeve.
Yeah. You know. I'm curious to where is there any like modern stresses they put on you, like in the original RE1 remake, like the Crimson Heads and things like that, things that really stress you on, you know, thinking about enemy placement and like more than just like I kind of wish
there was more of that, honestly. Like once I clear out zombies, you know, I feel kind of safe in the rooms where I chose to do that. But then again, I'm leaving a lot of them around, so that tension's always there. But again, that's more just the classic Resident Evil, you know, 1 tension. I would like some Crimson Head style things. I don't know, but I mean, you know, again, there's still more game left, so we'll see. But they do have like the shooting ranges where you could win prizes, like from Resident Evil 4, and those are like really fun, and like you really want to get the prizes, and I can't really do that on my Steam Deck. I gotta do it with a mouse, because it's kind of tough if you want to get like,
other than that though. Is it playing well on the Steam Deck?
No, it plays great on the Steam Deck, because, you know, there was a control configuration. You know, it's like any, like, you know, big picture Steam OS sort of thing where community has made a good control configuration, and I loaded that shit up, and I'm like, oh wow, this plays like really good. And that's what I didn't have when I was on PC, because I couldn't figure out how to do it on PC. I only really know how to do that in like Steam OS right now, and that's why the controls were so bad.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had my first experience with that same exact thing. Because I started, don't ask me why, but I started playing the Prince of Persia game from 2008 on the Steam Deck, and that game had no you know, out of the box like control configuration, but when I booted it up for the first time, it automatically recognized that there was a community configuration and loaded it on. So even though it gave me the message saying this game the way it phrased it, it made it sound like I was going to have to use the touchpads to control the character.
Oh God!
And I was like, oh God! And then, but it said we found a community configuration. Would you like to load it? And I clicked yes, and it loaded it in. And when I got in the game, everything was configured for me. Like that, and that's cool. Like I had no idea it was even doing that kind of shit. So luckily, not having to play that game with the touchpads.
It's fun. It's $5. Like, this is so far, a pretty hearty thumbs up from me. So I like it.
I will get around to playing it because hey, look, it's the Drunken Merchant. Sorry, I will get around to playing it myself because Chai Tai has gifted it to me, and it's been sitting there staring at me every time I boot up my Steam library. So, and you know me, I love a good survival horror game. The other game we're going to talk about tonight is a game that I believe we've talked about on the podcast before, briefly, but was quickly overshadowed by Elden Ring, which is in and of itself kind of a running joke now. But Chris Davis and myself have, now that we've finished Elden Ring, have both been diving back into Horizon Forbidden West, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling Chris Davis, just by the nature of things, is farther in this game than I am. I'm like 30. I think I'm right at 30 hours.
Okay, you have put more time into it. I just left Scalding Spear.
I'll be honest, I don't remember this. All the names kind of sound like that, so I'm not entirely sure where that is. I haven't memorized this map too well yet.
I just found a town called Saltbite, if that means anything.
Oh yes, I have. I just did that the other day.
Okay, then you're marginally ahead of me.
Okay, cool. So, unfortunately, there was one mechanic or system I wanted to use that I know exists in this game before we talked about it again on the podcast, but unfortunately I have not reached that point yet where I've unlocked it, and that's the ability to hijack flying machines to use them for traversal and stuff.
Yeah.
I know you can eventually do that, and I have come across machines that are that fly and stuff, but as of right now I've only engaged with them in combat. But I don't know. I'll have to talk about that later when I've actually experienced it. It's funny, Brad brought this up before the podcast, and it's like, it's such a fucking tragedy, man, that this game, just like the original, was completely, discourse wise anyway. I mean, the game still sells fantastic, and it's a big success for Sony, so obviously you don't need to feel bad for it. But it's hilarious how the conversation was overshadowed both times by first Breath of the Wild, then Elden Ring this time, because
it's funny. This
game is good.
Weeks ago, I was having a conversation with Nick or whatever, where I said I thought that he already beat this game, and he got super offended. Like, how dare you? I just have plenty to talk about. I'm going to tell you how much this game is amazing and how it should have never been forgotten.
No. First of all, I think my quote unquote anger. I wasn't angry, but when you brought that up, it's one of those few times where you say something and I'm like, Brad, do you just turn your ears off when you're not talking on the podcast? Because everybody forgot about Horizon. Everybody thought everybody had finished it and moved on with their life. I told y'all very early on that I can't play two massive games like that side by side. So I put down pretty much everything that was not bite-sized to focus on Elden Ring, and I didn't touch anything else unless it was a quick 5 to 10 hour game.
Yeah, I focused entirely on Elden Ring because I really don't like to work on one game at a time, and I wasn't about to buy Horizon because it was $70, and I'm not in a state to where I want to buy a $70 game yet. So,
but I've now spent 30 hours in this game, and let me just tell you, there is...
How much did you spend on Demon Souls, Chris Davis?
I technically own that anymore? Are you ever going to give me my copy back, you son of a bitch?
He
doesn't answer. Look at that.
That's funny.
I'm not trying to keep it from you. I just don't go to Round Rock.
Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, Brad, I'll stop and pick up Chris Davis.
Or Chris Davis.
And then I'll never see Nick again.
Chris Davis
That's what's going to happen. My copy is cursed. God damn it.
All right. Sorry. This is Horizon, so to some extent it's a known quantity, and like I said, I can't comment much on the new stuff that I really wanted to try before we talked about it, but my time with this game so far has reiterated to me that like what's so special about this game is that like every combat encounter in this game, no matter how small, feels like some of the most epic boss fight shit in most other action games. These encounters are crazy intense, and the system that they've come up with as far as like trying to like identify the weaknesses on these machines and strategically take them apart is just a fucking magical combination or magical system. It works so well, and the weapons that they've introduced in this game that weren't in the first one are really fucking cool. Like they have these canister spears, which basically allow you to attach elemental canisters to these machines. So like you can attach like let's just say an ice canister to a machine that's weakened by ice, and then if you hit that canister with an ice arrow, it'll do massive amounts of damage and inflict ice elemental damage on it or whatever, which can slow them down. Like it freezes all their joints, so they're physically moving slower through the environment. So like there's so much time spent like trying to put distance between you and the enemy, scan the enemy, and you can like literally cycle through all the individual components in the menu and like identify their weak points. And then it's all about trying to exploit those weak points in combat. It's so good. It's so fucking good. It's so fun, and it still works so well. And in this game, they've introduced, I can't remember if this was in the first one, but they've introduced some enemies that are like riding machines. Like you can. I think in the first game, you were like the only one in the world that could like ride on these machines. But
yeah, the only people in the world that could ride machines other than Aloy in the first game were story characters, critical people.
Right. In this game, there's just like and when there's a dude riding a machine, they both have separate health bars, but they're like, so you have to treat them as two different enemies, but they're running around as one. So like it's kind of a clusterfuck trying to keep track of all that shit, but it works. It works so well.
Works really well. The combat variety they've added with the new weapons, with the spears and the new skill trees with special abilities you get for each weapon. Like it's all an evolution of the formula they built in the first game. It does feel a little bit more aggressive this time around, but yeah. I think it's again to the game's real benefit. The idea that you've got to actually
enemy, even like the most basic enemies are super aggressive in this game. I got my ass kicked by like a burrower, which is like the most basic ass enemy in the game, and it was like level 5. I was level like 19 or something, and it still almost killed me. So you really gotta have to think on your toes.
Yeah, but that being said, like the combat is structured to where the only real limitations are the weaponry you're able to collect and build. Skill wise, you can encounter like a machine that's 20-30 levels above you, and you can survive that encounter. Like today I was going around I found this big lake in the north, and I'm just going around and kind of exploring. I see a ruined building, and I hear like this machine yell off in the distance to the north of me, and I hear some fire coming at me, and it's a fucking Thunderjaw just sprinting straight at me out of fucking nowhere. There was no way I knew it was there. It was just such a dynamic and fun encounter.
I'm really looking for like those kinds of experiences when we finally play the VR game, because I would imagine that shit in VR is going to be kind of terrifying.
I don't have much high hopes for the VR. I don't think that we can expect that level of dynamic gameplay.
Fidelity. Hey, dude.
Well, not fidelity. I think the
Stormland. I'm gonna sit here and praise Stormland. If y'all remember that game, I played the shit out of that. It was one of the coolest first-person action shooters that I played in VR, and it was completely like being able to fly around the environment in a jetpack, climb up walls, dual wield weapons.
That's funny.
Like that shit was so cool.
I was looking at how there's that Google sheet or whatever that Ed made, that doc of all our Game of the Years from all the different years, and I was going through them, and I saw Stormlands on one of your lists, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I just stared at that for like 10 minutes trying to remember what the fuck.
Why not just Google it?
It was the only thing I couldn't.
Or watch Nick's video.
I did fucking years ago, but I'm just saying, I had no. I mean, that name didn't help, but I just couldn't.
I mean, it's kind of a generic name, but it was one of the best. It was one of the best representations of like what VR can do for like first person action experiences. Like, it's such a cool game with like full freedom of movement, that kind of thing. And if they could even achieve a fraction of that in like Horizon VR, like that would be amazing, because this already has like an amazing sense of scale and stuff.
The potential is there. My only concern with Call of the Mountain is freedom of movement, because that's the biggest challenge when it comes to a VR game, is the movement system you use and how much freedom you give players in exploring an environment.
But again, it's been done before really well.
It absolutely has been.
So it could be done. And this is Guerrilla. They could, they have a bigger budget than the guys that made Stormland did, most certainly. So like, I don't know. I could see some cool stuff happening there. Again, I don't have much to say about this because we've talked about Horizon plenty in the past. I just wanted to make sure it got some conversation on this fucking podcast, because this game is still dope as hell. And from a gameplay perspective, like pure gameplay, like it's one of the best games I've played this year, probably. Elden Ring is fantastic, but like this game still fucking is such a tight combat experience.
Feels
to be
really
fair,
good.
You haven't played Vampire Survivors.
I have not played Vampire Survivors.
That's a whole other beast, though. Man.
Also, like some of the cauldrons and shit that you go into, like the underground dungeons and like which are more focused on like platforming and puzzle solving, have been really cool. And there was one the other day I went into that was like a broken down cauldron. This is kind of spoilery. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Really cool. Like it kind of subverted expectations. I went into it and it was like, something is wrong with this cauldron. Like everything is off. Everything seems broken. What's going on here? And you have to kind of solve the mystery of what's happening. And when you finally fix everything and you rise out of the top of the mountain back into the world, it's such an amazing moment.
It's a set piece moment, really. I know exactly which cauldron you're talking about. Yeah,
set piece moment, completely optional, not part of the main story, but just one of those moments that like took my breath away and made me go, "Oh my god, this is incredible." Probably going to come up on when we're talking about best moments of the year for me, because it was just like, I was like, holy shit. I feel like that was the moment I was like, yes, I'm so into this game at this point. I mean, so
that's the thing about this sequel, is that it's everything Horizon 1 did best. It builds on and expands on.
There's like a hub. Like there's I haven't done much with it yet, but it's kind of like Mass Effect, where you're like, you have like a home base and you're like collecting people and sending them back to this place, so that when you go back, they're populating it and you can talk to them and like more story unfolds there. I haven't really gone back there yet, but it certainly set the groundwork for that. That was another thing I wanted to make sure I kind of experienced before I talked about it, but I haven't yet.
I'm loving this game. I've never played it, and I will never play it. But man,
why will
I feel like
you
I
never
should bring
play
a little
this?
negativity to this conversation. What about the bows? Why will you
never play this game?
What about the fact that you have to roll around with a bunch of different bows because they each have like 2 elements or whatever, and you need like 12 different bows with different configurations of these elements? And I'm like, they should probably streamline that system. It sounds pretty bad.
Fair.
But they have kind of streamlined that because you now have the ability to completely customize your loadout. You can select which types of bows, or not even bows. You got all this different equipment you can use, like the spears, like the trip caster, things like that. You've got variety available to you.
Those are
how
great.
You build it.
Yeah, but you do have to, like, he has a valid point. There are a lot of bow and arrows in this game, and
it's a tribal game. It's about tribes.
No. We get that. What he's saying is like, why not just have one bow that you upgrade, and that is your bow, and customize that, as opposed to having there was one point in this game where I had the whole weapon wheel was populated with bows, and each bow had a different element assigned to it. I get that. I totally agree with that criticism.
Vagrant story.
It seems like they could solve that problem by doing what literally everybody else has ever done with bows and arrows, and put the element on the fucking arrow. Like,
the funny thing is,
like, what is that?
I guess yeah, you're right. These are totally valid criticisms.
Like,
absolutely.
That's so weird that they're just no, she should carry around 10 bows. Weird.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely true. But then again, that being said, there are varieties of arrow types available in the game. Not necessarily elemental focus, but like different builds.
weird.
There has been multiple times where I've had to stop a battle because I realized the enemy that I was fighting, I needed like a purge water bow in order to do significant damage, and I didn't have one equipped to my weapon wheel, so I had to pause the action, go into my inventory, replace one of my other bows with my purge water bow, as opposed to just quickly equipping purge water arrows to my existing bow. I totally get that shit. You're right. But like the other systems that we have talked about, like the skill trees are really cool, and there's a lot of useful abilities and stuff. So picking how to allocate your points is fun.
The new Valor system has a lot of variety to it and how you want to use it. That's really cool. I know we really don't want to talk about it, but I do want to mention how impressed I am with this game's story and storytelling.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
How are the character models?
I mean, they're
what you're really trying to ask, Brad, I can tell, is about the hair. Trying to ask about the hair.
I think he was making a Final Fantasy joke.
He's making a Final Fantasy
joke. You're right. Fuck, he is making a Final Fantasy joke.
You're
right, Chris Davis. The storytelling in this game is
you could tell that the Frozen Wilds was like the foundation for where they wanted to go, and the acting that they put in this, the facial animations alone are worthy enough of the sequel status, but like the walking around and the character talking,
fuck you, Brad. Fuck you.
Yeah,
it works so much better.
I mean, what the issue that we're kind of dancing around now though is like, how hot is Aloy?
No, shut up. God damn it, Chris.
She needs me.
Why are you two trying to derail this?
No. It's funny you bring that. It's funny you bring that shit up. It's funny you bring that shit up because obviously I've spent a lot of time in the photo mode in this game, right? Which is a very expansive photo mode.
The marketing was bad, and she's actually a smoke show, is what you're saying.
What?
What, dude? No. I just like the number.
How cool
I've been
would
kind
it be if the photo mode had like those TikTok makeup filters? No. There is, because you can change her face paint, and there is straight up face paint that like paints her face up in like that fame, like not exactly like a common whore.
Shut God damn it, bro. Oh no!
Thanks for tuning in to 4Player Podcast. This has been episode 721.
Yeah, that's
our
it.
last one
Cut
ever.
Cut it. We're going home. No. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that has been turned into a meme at this point, where people are like, "Aloy's not pretty enough," and they're like, "Let fans, design the characters, whatever," and then they put like heavy makeup on or whatever, right? There is face paint, one of them that looks similar to that, and that is the one I see everywhere on Twitter when people are posting their photos. Like, everybody's using that one. Oh, shit. It drives me fucking crazy.
That dude was right.
Fucking hate this conversation.
All right.
Can I just also mention that I love the story they're trying to tell in this game.
Yeah.
It's the natural evolution of where they wanted to go, with the setup of the first game, and it gives you a Act 1 plot twist that is kind of my favorite one so far this year.
I might need you to, off the feed, tell me what that is, because I'm wondering if that's something that I did in the first 10 hours when I was trying to play it with Elden Ring, and then I decided to put it down because I've already kind of forgotten what that twist might be.
Okay.
I think
we can discuss
already didn't talk about it the first time we talked about this game.
Nick was the only one that was touching it. Everyone else was playing Elden Ring. And don't forget Dying Light 2, by the way. That was happening at the exact same time, too.
That's not true. Yeah. Ed was on, and he was talking a lot about Horizon as well.
Well, we need to get fucking Ed on here so we can have a wider... Next, I'm not going to talk about this game again until I've flown on the back of a fucking pterodactyl. I've I don't know, boned someone at my hub camp or whatever. I don't know.
And also, if we have
way more of the story.
If we have some underwater exploration footage, which will definitely get Brad to play this game.
Dude, the underwater shit is good.
It's good.
Underwater shit's good.
It's good.
I think the problem is that when you look at footage of this game, if you've ever played Monster Hunter, you're like, man, I should play Monster Hunter.
Nah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna say that. I don't want to be crucified.
Nick, how is Monster Hunter coming?
Good. I've done 4 hunts.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I've already played
You're
that
probably
game.
gonna put a
I'm
Switch game, okay? When Monster Hunter World 2 comes out, then we'll look at Horizon 2.
Brad, I need you to get off my dick. I will be ready for Sunbreak. I promise you, 100% swear to God, I will be ready for Sunbreak.
I believe
by the
you'll
time
be
it
ready
hits.
in some capacity. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not
in
denying
some
that.
capacity, my ass.
Ready with his wallet.
I mean, why would you want to play Monster Hunter when you have robot fucking dinosaurs going on? Like,
dude, robot dinosaurs is pretty cool.
Robot dinosaurs are fucking awesome.
And there are actual robot dinosaurs. There's robot triceratopses. They're pretty cool.
How many viewer questions do we have?
That's a good question. Let's transition, right? Viewer questions. I have 4 or 5 for us here. Again, guys, if you listen to the show and you want to write in and ask us a question for a future episode, you can do so by going to discord.gg/4player. We have a submit a question thread. I make a thread every week for the upcoming episode. Leave a question there, and we will read it and answer it on the show. And our first one, and this is a simple one. We're gonna start simple. It's from Kenton FTW. He says, "What are some of your favorite books of all time? I need some new reading material." Go.
Okay.
I want some truly inspiring answers.
I mean, pretty
Song of Ice
standard
and Fire.
stuff. Yeah. Song of Ice and Fire series.
We're failing
really
him.
Dune is amazing.
Dude,
if you haven't read it, at least
read
the first 3 Dunes. Amazing.
So, I listened to the audiobook for Dune 1, got through that, loved it.
Yeah.
Now that I feel like I'm kind of I'm in the Dune universe now for the first time in my life. I'm really digging it. I really want to try that Dune Spice Wars game too. I'm going to talk about that on a future episode. But I picked up Dune. Is it Messiah? That's book 2? Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
My only concern about Dune reading, like physically reading Dune after listening to the audiobook is like there is so much like complex like languages and names and shit that I feel like I'm just going to butcher in my head when I'm reading it.
But there are plenty of pronunciation guides out there.
The fact that there has to be pronunciation guides in the first place.
But like I had the same problem.
Challenge.
Means nothing.
I had the same problem with Song of Ice and Fire.
It's a fantasy series, for fuck's sake. You know, like it's all. I mean,
I struggled with the same shit.
Like the main character's name is Paul, right? Yeah. There's a really big character whose name is Duncan Idaho. Like you'll be
but his
fine.
last name is Atreides, so
you'll be fucking fine. Like don't worry about it, Jesus.
Sure.
What else? House of Leaves is a big one for me.
I still have never read that.
Really like House of Leaves. It's weird. It's a weirdo. It's a wackadoo, man. But it's fun once, you know, at least.
Yeah. And I still haven't experienced it once, so
if you're into that,
is just waiting.
Yeah, if you're into that, like kind of what are they epistolary storytelling, I think is the phrase they use for it. I don't know, where like you're trying to tell a story through documentation after the fact, kind of like Frankenstein,
like
also,
World War
Frankenstein.
Z.
Frankenstein's a cool book. If you never read Frankenstein, or whatever the original full title of it is, good book. When I was a kid, really liked, what is that called? A Wrinkle in Time. Like A Wrinkle in Time and like its sequel books, A Wind Through the Door or something. Yeah, those were really cool.
I've heard the Wheel of Time series is pretty good too.
Wheel of Time's supposed to be incredible. Lord of the Rings, if you haven't, right? At least once. The Hobbit, if you haven't, at least once. Those are classics.
Now I'll just watch the Hobbit films.
Boo.
I know.
The Silmarillion at least twice.
At least 4 times, just to really kind of wrap your mind around it.
If you want a nonfiction book, I've got one.
Okay.
There's a book I really like called Blind Man's Bluff. It's all about the advent of submarines in the 20th century and how that happened, how that was conducted, and did secret operations during the Cold War. It's really cool. Also, a lot of fun writing, just hearing all the antics these sailors got into. I would definitely recommend Blind Man's Bluff, and that's been out for like 15 years, so you can get it paperback.
Blind Man's Bluff. And, you know, just because the question is asking what your favorite books of all time is, and I know this is not a topic of conversation we want to have right now, but I'm not gonna lie. If I was to answer totally truthfully, the Harry Potter series is still a series I could go back and read infinitely and still enjoy.
Boo,
that obviously comes with a lot of bullshit now. Get him, give me. But obviously, that's also a most people, if you're into that, you've already read it probably. So pointless answer.
Yeah. Ooh,
Man,
I remembered a couple more. The Malazan Book of the Fallen series is really good.
Wait, what is it called?
It's called Malazan Book of the Fallen. Malazan Book of the Fallen. It's a really good one if you like, just like really intense fantasy world building, like geopolitical shit.
Cool.
That's a good one.
Sounds dense.
Yeah, if you haven't read anything by Brandon Sanderson, his stuff is usually really good.
And he's prolific too.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's got several like complete series that take place in like completely different worlds, have like different different magic systems and philosophies on magic and things like that. Really
I think
cool
he
stuff.
said he wrote like
Should check
5 or
those
6
out.
books over the span of like 18 months.
And
That's crazy.
I mean, good. Yeah,
Watchmen,
that is crazy. Just
I think,
FYI,
is
so
one
I'm
that
reading a
everybody
book.
should
This is
read.
not like my favorite book of all time, but it's a cool book that I'm reading right now that I'm really enjoying. It's called Hex, and it's like it's a cool like modern take on horror because it's like it's about a town that's cursed by a witch, but like so if the people who live in the town. The people who live in the town can't leave, or they fall into a deep depression and kill themselves. So they have to stay in the town where the witch literally just appears in different parts of the town. But the town has become so desensitized to it because the town has been cursed for like 100 years. So the town is just the people they know about her. They just accept it as part of life. But she disappears and reappears in places. She appears in like people's living rooms and just hangs out. And all people do is like put a blanket over her because they're just like, oh. We're just going to cover you up here, and the town has formed. The town has formed this like.
What is this?
The town is Hex, and it's called Hex because the town has formed this like, this organization that like monitors her movement and tracks her to make sure that no outsiders come into the town and are exposed to her. Because the moment you are exposed to her, you are cursed, so you have to stay in the town. So like this organization has set up cameras all over the town, and they monitor it like with an underground like. Security system, so they always know where she is in the town at all times. And she appears in people's like living rooms and at the side of their bed. She'll appear in like public spaces, just like in the middle, and they just go about their daily lives trying to ignore her. And it's such a cool modern like combination of like classic horror and like technology. It's just it's fucking cool. So highly recommend that.
One more, the Southern Reach trilogy. The first book of that is Area X. That's the movie that Annihilation is adapted from.
Cool. So I might have to check that out.
That's a really good weirdo.
That sounds rad.
Science fiction sort of thing. It's fun.
Nick, I don't know if this really means anything to you, but evidently Warner Brothers has purchased the options for film television rights for Hex.
I have,
and
there's
everything
no doubt.
Else.
Yeah,
true,
but it's one of those things. Like as I was reading it, I was like, this would make a cool premise for a show or a movie, like straight up. And it's a more recent book. It was written a couple of years ago.
I really
Stephen
like
King has praised it.
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And I found out years ago that they actually made like a British television series. I've never seen it. I don't know if it's any good, but truly everything gets made into a TV show or movie these days.
Yeah, or maybe it's better to think about it as like everything that you enjoy on television and movies at some point probably originated as a book. Well, not everything, obviously, but like a lot of stuff can probably be drilled down to a book of some kind. All right, our next question comes from Green Toast, Mr. Green Toast. He says, with the recent announcement of Resident Evil 4 Remake and seeing Ashley wear a similar outfit to the early beta model, what are your hopes/fears for unused concepts in this remake? I slightly hope to see the Hookman foe that was shown in early footage of Resident Evil 4. That is what I was referencing earlier. It was a ghost type monster wielding this like giant hook that showed up in the first footage that was originally supposed to be like Resident Evil 3.5 and then eventually morphed into becoming Resident Evil 4.
Like the third iteration of the Biohazard 4 project, Yeah.
So and that looked kind of like the tone like was a little more similar, closer to what we're seeing now in this remake. So personally, I would love, again, going back to what we were talking about with like, in order to justify its existence, trying to put some distance between itself and the original, because that original game still plays beautifully. So maybe
we talked a lot
coming
about
back
this
and
already.
But like bringing in elements of stuff, like unused stuff from the original, and introducing maybe new enemy types or new characters.
What's
could be
the
a cool
Mr.
way.
X? What's the Mr. X gonna be?
The Hookman, man, the ghost Hookman that follows you everywhere. That could be dope.
Or the giant statue.
The giant
The giant statue follows you
I
everywhere.
would suggest that the Mr. X of this remake is going to be the village chief.
Yeah, that would be cool. Actually,
They very briefly the trailers show him, and he has basically the same kind of visual design as Mr. X. So,
but like he's also out of the picture by the time you leave the village and move on to the next kind of major area. But still, for that segment, yeah, it would be cool to have him like track you down throughout the village.
Yeah,
jumping through windows trying to get away from that fool would be pretty neat. Anything else y'all want to add to this? They showed a little bit of Ada in that trailer. We didn't really mention that earlier. I'm kind of wondering if they're gonna like kind of fold the Ada assignment stuff back into like the game and just make it one
separate ways. You mean?
Yeah,
I don't think we should expect this game to be as content rich as the original.
Sure,
Yeah.
but like Ada's in there. That's confirmed.
I mean, if we get separate ways or some kind of Ada mode or story, I think that's DLC post launch.
Definitely possible. Our next question comes from Tack. Says, what is something video games or fiction in general have taught you, even tangentially? I remember sometime in grade school that I suddenly understood what eco-terrorism was because of Final Fantasy VII. Also, spousal abuse and the word shit he learned from video games. I don't know. That's just what he wrote. I'm just reading what the man wrote. I have no idea. He learned about horrible truths in the world from video games, which is, wonderful. I don't know. Nothing's really coming to mind there.
Yeah, it's an odd question.
This is one of those questions that really demonstrates why we need like a day or two before to think about it.
I will gladly give these to you a day or two. I mean, also, these are posted in Discord. You can look at them at any time.
I mean, okay, but not a one of us. If any one of us ever had a gun and shot a red barrel and it didn't explode, our brains would be like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's definitely something.
Although they did what do you call it? Oh fuck. What's the show where they like try and prove or disprove
Mythbusters?
Yeah, they did a Mythbusters on that.
You couldn't remember Mythbusters?
I couldn't remember Mythbusters, man. Sorry. Gonzo Lude says he learned the power of friendship from Persona 4.
Hell yeah. Friendship is dope.
Yeah. If anything pops in your head, we'll come back to it. But
let's come back to it.
Negative Cosine asks, there was a short period of explosive growth for VR games, which has dried up recently. Even with cheaper models available, the cost is still a huge wall. Do you think that the PSVR 2, or anything for that matter, can revive VR games?
No.
Brad's shaking his head.
It can and it won't. I mean, the thing that's reviving VR games is the Oculus, or not what do they call it now?
The Quest,
Quest 2 or whatever.
Yeah,
that's the one that finally like went a little mainstream and sold like a whole bunch because it wasn't cost prohibitive, because you didn't need a supercomputer, because it doesn't have a bunch of cables and stuff. You just put it on your head, and that's the future of VR. Like that technology getting a little bit more powerful,
I have a serious question, Brad.
More comfortable and less invasive and stuff.
I have a serious question.
Yeah.
As someone who has the Oculus Rift S, if I got a Quest...
What is that? That's
Quest
just a regular VR headset?
Yeah, it's just the current... It was the last model of the Rift before the Quest 2, I guess. So, how like, because you're not connected to a computer, like, how big of is there like a noticeable downgrade you'd be taking in visuals, or like I'm still confused as to how this whole thing works without being connected to a computer?
Just the tech is in the headset.
Yeah, it's in the headset.
I mean, is it strong? Like, is it powerful enough to like?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, like what are you actually looking?
You're not going to have as much visual fidelity as your Vive.
Could I play Half-Life Alyx on there and have it be like worthwhile?
You can connect it to your computer and play Half-Life Alyx. You can via a cable or wireless.
Oh, I keep forgetting you can connect it to the computer. Okay,
yeah,
that makes total sense.
Yeah,
interesting.
But I'm telling you, like, VR is so much more accessible when it's just something sitting on your coffee table. You pick it up, you put it on, and you're playing some like music and rhythm game and getting a nice little workout, or, you're playing, Resident Evil 4 VR, and then you play for 10 minutes, you put it down, and you come back later. Like, it's so much more, like, I got a PSVR. Like, y'all got VRs. You never play that shit because it's so much of a to-do. Right, but like the future of VR,
I have mine permanently hooked up, but I never
give a shit. You don't play it, right? The thing is, even like turning it on and getting it, there's still like some setup and shit, right? Like it's the future of VR is the accessible version, and I think the sales of the Quest 2 prove that. I don't think the PSVR 2. It's gonna be neat. It's gonna be powerful. There's gonna be some cool games. That's not the future, and I don't think that they're going to change much with it.
I also think that VR at some point will reach a higher level of accessibility and mainstream success, but that doesn't necessarily mean that moment is now, or that we should be expecting it to happen now. I think it's kind of an inevitability.
It is happening now. It's just not like it is a successful thing that does well, Sure, most people play Beat Saber, but that's what successful VR looks like,
Yeah.
It's just not what, maybe we envisioned it as originally, but, it is a successsul thing. And it's
successful.
Right now.
We're not getting
like
the
it's selling
experiences we
well
want,
right
but we're getting it slowly. Like that, and that's what people really want. They want the Horizons. They want these big, large name, popular franchises to come to a virtual reality experience.
They want all the Resident Evil games to be playable and completely from day one.
They do, but the problem there is that there is a significant investment that publishers have to realize they're not going to get a return on investment for. So
I'm really curious to see what the cable situation is going to be like on this new PSVR headset, because one of the biggest barriers to entry in any headset so far for me, that out of the ones I've used, is the fucking cables, man. It's a fucking nightmare.
If PSVR is $300 or less, it's going to have a cable.
I think it's going to be about as much as a PS5, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
it's probably going to be $500.
This article from today or yesterday, this morning, says that the Oculus Quest 2 has already surpassed and is outselling the current series of Xbox.
Are Quests still are they readily accessible these days? Or I think the last time I tried to look into it,
available to buy.
I couldn't find one. But that was like
because
a year
they were
ago.
selling like crazy.
Well, it's also a victim of the chip shortage, so there is a somewhat limited supply, but you can find one. It's out there.
That is true. All right, I have one more question tonight. There's a few others here, but we'll have to save them for next week. And I'm going to go with... here we go. Just a simple question. Zero Sky has asked, what are your greatest fears related to game remakes? A relevant question, obviously.
Fears? Fears, I don't know. Missing the point completely.
Missing the point completely,
being
I
a
think,
bad
is a big
game.
one.
Or here's a fear: when they do like a shitty remake and get rid of the original from like stores and stuff. That shit happens a lot, right?
Yes.
Does it though? When they do are you sure? Isn't that more like when they do like a remaster?
Pixel remasters, for example.
Yeah, remasters, sure.
But like they would never release Resident Evil 2 remake and then get rid of Resident Evil 2. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen.
No. I am talking about remasters, yeah. Or like think about the Silent Hill remaster, where they do a remaster and they think that that's good enough, and then that's what that game is forever now. And what?
I think my biggest fear is
remakes
that
coming too soon also suck.
Remakes coming too soon can be an issue. I think my bigger fear though is that treating a remake like an opportunity to experiment with something and then forever shifting the trajectory of a franchise because of which can be a good thing, I suppose, but I think it can also be like misread. It could also be like, hey, this one game that we did a remake and we changed this thing dramatically and everybody fucking loved it, so we're gonna completely abandon like everything that came before it.
Isn't that kind of what's happening with Resident Evil?
I think an argument could be made for Resident Evil.
Like I still like the remake of Resident Evil 3. It is not the game I wanted. It is a game that was clearly on a budget and a constraint, just like the original one was. But that is my greatest fear. Is you set out to remake a game, but you don't give it the budget and the time necessary to fulfill the vision of what that thing should be.
The Resident Evil 3 remake was especially in an unfortunate situation because it came out so close to Resident Evil 2 remake that they hadn't even received, like by the time they were working on the Resident Evil 3 remake, they hadn't even received feedback. Like Resident Evil 2 wasn't even out yet, so like they had no idea how people received it. So it's like none of the reception or positive reception to Resident Evil 2 remake was out there to even have an impact on the development of Resident Evil 3. They were working on them in tandem. So you ended up with kind of two different games. If Resident Evil 3 hadn't even started production until after Resident Evil 2 was out, I feel like that remake would have ended up being a totally different animal. But it ended up in the very same situation as the original Resident Evil 3 did, which was they were going to release it less than a year after the original Resident Evil 2. So it didn't feel like a huge step forward.
Well, not just that. It wasn't just the timetable. It was the fact that just like it repeated history in the fact that the team was given a very hampered budget as well. Like they robbed dollars and yen from the Resident Evil 3 remake to help fund Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
And that's...
I mean, you could tell one of them was a priority over the other. And this is just a aside, and we can move on. We can close out the show after this. But I heard on another podcast, and somebody suggested this, and they seemed very, very enthusiastic and sure about this. And I was like, that sounds crazy, but could be possible. Like they were talking about what is the next step after the Resident Evil 4 remake if they in fact want to keep going with like kind of reinventing the franchise or like modernizing it. And they're like, what if they remake Resident Evil 1 again? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, I don't want that. Stop it.
I mean, I'm not asking if you want it. I'm asking do you think it's likely?
Not happening.
I mean, I want Code Veronica more than I want another remake of 1, but like I'm also thinking about like
I don't think there's enough going on in Resident Evil 1 to like warrant or to drive a remake.
I would much rather them do more of an exploration of 0 and kind of bridging the gap to 1. Than an actual remake of 1.
Sure, make 0 good.
0 had great ideas. It just
co-op, man. Co-op. Make Resident Evil 0 remake with co-op. I like Drunken Merchant's idea. That's
cool. The problem with multiplayer in Resident Evil games is that when it's adversarial PvP, it's not interesting. But when it's co-op, that's where the fun is. That's where you have a lot of
remake Outbreak.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's get a new Outbreak.
That would be cool.
The community is exploring that with mods right now. Like there's a mod called Before the Storm that is built that's trying to make a RPG like experience out of the hours and days before Resident Evil 2 occurs. And it's cool.
You know, like if you're gonna do another Outbreak though, give it to like the A team. You know what I mean? Like give it to the team. Like don't just pawn it off on some smaller team to like make a Resident Evil spinoff. Like give it to the main Capcom dev team and say, do what you did. Work your magic that you did on Resident Evil 2 remake, but let's bring back Outbreak. That could be cool.
That's a great last thought, Nick.
That is a great last thought.
Show up with the 4-player minute.
We have 5 minutes left, Brad. 4-player minute starts now. Y'all know how it works. Go, Brad.
My final thought for this episode is that one of the games I was going to talk about for the podcast was that Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, which is the Kickstarter bonus game that for Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which is the RPG, which is the spiritual successor to Suikoden. This action game is not really an RPG. It's just there, made by a different developer in that universe, similar characters to build hype. And I was playing that and I was like, well, this is okay. But you know what I could play? Suikoden 5. Because that is a game and a series I love, but I never finished Suikoden 5. It had a lot of issues. I mean, it's a really loved game by the fans of the series because it corrects a lot of the sins of Suikoden 4 and 3 to some people. But, I was really frustrated with some of the ways that game kind of took a step back. The loading was really bad. The encounter rate was really bad. So, I played most of it, but I never got through it. And I'm like, why am I playing this action game that's supposed to build hype for a spiritual successor to a series when I could just play like a well-regarded game in that actual series? And it got me thinking, like, we do this shit all the time, right? Where you hear like a Kickstarter game of like, oh, they're making a spiritual successor to this. Maybe I'll get this because I've always heard good things about that original game. Maybe just play the original game. Maybe the whole reason this spiritual successor even exists because people loved this old thing so much, and that old thing so much a lot of us haven't even played. Just go back and play it. Just play it. Why cross your fingers that this new thing's going to be good when the thing it's based on is unplayed by a lot of people? And that's
Brad's
sort of what
having
I realized.
his fuddy-duddy moment.
No, it's like, I think it's a very positive thing. I think more people
Sure.
need to embrace the things that are influencing the things that we're trying to get excited about now just because they're new,
Sure, but we shouldn't shame people for being excited about something, even if it's.
Well,
new,
I didn't talk about. I'm not talking about shaming. I'm talking about. I think this happens a lot where there's franchises and a type of game or a genre of game that we really love, and we still missed some of standouts from a series, from a genre, from whatever, and you often, for whatever reason, and it makes you think like, well, what's keeping me from finally going back and playing that? And that's sort of what popped into my head. Stop playing a spin-off of a Pretender when, I got the stake already in my house. I just need to sit down and play it. So I got it running up on my Steam Deck. I do own the game, but it runs great on a Steam Deck, and I got the turbo working.
Which one?
So
Is
I
it
can speed through the 5. So I could speed through the load screens with my turbo button. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited because I'm playing a game that I should have finished a very long time ago, and I don't have to wait for the Pretender. I have the real thing right here. So yeah,
the genuine article.
Playing it.
All right, Crispy.
Oh, hello. My final thought for this week. I don't have a whole lot. I mean, State of Play was actually a little disappointing for me, despite the fact that Final Fantasy XVI looked cool and Street Fighter 6 looked cool. The whole thing was just kind of like whatever. But I will say, on the break, I watched that Angry Joe interviewing Jeff Keighley video.
Oh, no!
And it is bad. It's so bad. Like, he looks like such a fucking idiot. And it's the same kind of facile, directionless anger that was just kind of there in 2010 that kind of came, Gamergate and stuff hadn't happened yet, and people were just kind of what it's so fucking funny though, wow. But yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna live vicariously
to everyone in the
through
comments who were who's man, props on you for keeping this up because it makes you look like such a fucking idiot, such a
it's not a good look.
Such a goddamn dork. It's man, you're watching and you're like, someone fucking shove this kid in a locker, please. It's real bad.
Oh man. Well, that confirms it. I'll never watch that video, but
it's fun.
I'm glad it brings joy to some. Chris Davis, what's your 4-player minute? Brad left and was going to ruin the setup.
God damn it, Brad. I got to fix it now.
Well, that's why we have to try and be done by 11, but whatever.
I'm going to try this.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, that worked. I have to be prepared for these scenarios.
Oh, okay, cool. Look at that.
My final thought is that combined with Summer Game Fest and announcement season going on, Top Gun Fever kind of hit me really hard, kind of like a Mack truck, really. I was so surprised by how much I enjoyed that movie that I ended up installing and completely playing through for the first time both Ace Combat 3, which is a game that has a very storied history behind it, and as well as Skycrawler's Innocent Aces, which was a Wii game from Project Aces as well, just to get my fill of like dogfighting and fighter combat. Because
seems like a strange way to chase that vibe. You could have played like the creme de la creme of like.
Well, I never played those
dogfighting games, right?
Ace Combat 3 has a history because the Western port of it cut out all the story content. It was just missions and stuff. It cut out a lot of missions too. The Japanese version has a bunch more content, branching storylines, branching character interactions, a whole interesting narrative to it that the rest of the world didn't get. But fans several years ago put out a translation patch that you can get the story content in. So I played through an emulated version of the game with that content, and it was a cool thing to experience. I'm really glad I got to play it. And then the Skycrawlers was a game that I never thought would come out over here, but it actually got a port. But it came out when the Wii was dying and the Wii U was now a thing. So I just never got around to playing it. So I was glad to actually finally experience that. But I'm circling back to one of the things I'm hyped for, one of the things I'm really hopeful to see sometime this summer is a formal announcement of Ace Combat 8. It is a known quantity that people expect to be well in development at this point. It's been over 3 years since 7 came out, and 7 just got DLC for it again. So if there's anything I'm really hyped, the number one thing I want to see this summer is Ace Combat 8. So I'm really hoping to see it.
I feel like there's a chance that might show up. If that was to be announced sometime, I feel like that might show up at a State of Play.
I mean, Sony was where it was originally debuted. I mean, it was at Sony Gamescom, I believe, where the announcement was.
Or fuck it, maybe it'll show up at Microsoft this Sunday.
I wouldn't put it past
Summer
Microsoft
of Dreams.
That's the thing. Bandai Namco hasn't announced anything this summer at all, any new content. So I wouldn't put it past Microsoft since they won't have Fable, since they won't have Perfect Dark. This would be a good opportunity for them.
They still got an hour and a half to present a whole bunch of other shit. So
not to mention a whole other presentations a couple days later. So,
but I don't think there's gonna be a ton of announcements there. But we'll see.
Who knows?
My 4-player minute is also going to be Summer Games Fest related. It's kind of a bummer that E3 is not happening this year, but because I love this season. I like announcements. I live for this stuff. This is what I wake up every day and I'm like, ooh, I hope something cool gets announced today. That's just the way I am. It's because I'm a fucking weirdo.
We like announcements more than we do playing games.
Sometimes that's true. I don't know. It's probably just me trying to chase that.
Yeah, you're a hype addict. We get it, Nick. You've got a problem. We've been trying to get you to see somebody for years.
I mean, sincerely, I am like chasing probably that, like
chasing the dragon.
That first Sony press conference that I ever went to back in I think that was 2009. Like the first E3 I ever went to, one of the first things we did was go to the Sony press conference, and that was where The Last Guardian was officially unveiled. Final Fantasy XIII was revealed. Final Fantasy XIV was revealed immediately thereafter. Like it was a magical fucking day. So like I feel like ever since that moment, I've just been like kind of chasing that hype and that vibe because I genuinely love those moments. I know it's pointless, I guess, but like I do kind of live for the stuff. So like I am excited for the Summer Game Fest. I am excited for Microsoft's thing on Sunday, even if it is not the genuine article. But I will say this. If another Summer Game Fest or E3 season or whatever goes by with none of these Silent Hill projects confirmed that we basically know exist, I'm going to lose my fucking shit. Because we know they're out there. We know Konami is secretly trying to bring back Silent Hill. We're like 98% sure that's happening at this point. We practically know like details about 3 of these projects, who they're being developed by, and kind of what they look like or are going for. And the fact that Sony is not doing another State of Play, at least not right now, there might be something later in the summer. It really doesn't give me hope for the fact that any one of these things is going to come to fruition in the next couple days. But that was really kind of the thing, right? For me, that would be like, that is what I want more than anything in the world at this point in time. And I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope. I don't have a lot of hope going into this thing. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm fucking wrong.
I hope
because
you're wrong,
we know they're
too.
out there. We know they're out there.
I think this is my personal thinking. I think that if they do it this summer, or when they do it, is that this is going to be a big. They're going to show everything that they're working on with Silent Hill.
They're going to do
a
Silent Hill event.
A big transmedia event.
You guys,
they're going to talk about all the games.
Okay.
Talk about the films.
You guys are
They're
so
going to talk about the TV
stupid.
show they're working on.
Chris Davis.
You guys.
Chris Davis.
Oh my god.
The
way you guys. Oh my god.
Wad all at once.
Oh. There's going to be a whole Silent Hill holiday, Nick. It's going to be amazing. And Pyramid Head's going to be there. And they're going to be giving out PS5s and PlayStation VR 2s. And Dragon's Dogma 2 will be there. And it'll be great. And everything will be fine. And the war in Ukraine will end. And it'll be awesome.
Oh,
That's you guys. That's what you sound like. Fucking grow up.
Crispy, I love you to death, but goddamn it, every time you do one of these rants, I have to edit that shit on the podcast, and I have to physically isolate that part of the podcast and like duck the audio till it's almost non-existent. Because goddamn,
we need to get that man a compressor.
I do want to say, Chris Davis, you're crazy. You're crazy. Not only because that is some like pie. That's not only pie in the sky shit. Like that is like Silent Hill has never been like a huge mainstream success. I don't think Silent Hill has ever been big enough to justify getting its own transmedia event. It's just it's not how it happens. They're gonna announce it at like one of these other things, and it's gonna be like, hooray! The Silent Hill fans are gonna be happy, and then we're gonna move on. Like that's
I'm watching you guys do this to yourself.
I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm saying that like they would have the equivalent of a dedicated Silent Hill State of Play.
No, that's exactly. I know exactly what you're saying. I know that's exactly what I think you're saying, and I think you're crazy for suggesting that. But you know what? I hope you're right. I fucking hope you're right because I would love it. But we need to. We need to.
Okay.
We need to move on. We need to close this show out. I'm glad you went there, Chris Davis. I think you're crazy, but I'm glad you went there.
Who knows? Maybe it'll happen.
You know
maybe
what?
This is it. Maybe this is the year. Maybe there's more Silent Hill coming than you ever thought possible.
Or even wanted.
You're going to be fucking sick of Silent Hill in 5 years.
That could be true.
5 projects.
That could be. One is a fucking movie and one's a TV show.
The Silent Hill expanded universe begins now.
Yep. Oh my god, starring Pete Davidson. All right. Guys, that's our show tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with us. I know we had a lot to cover tonight, but you made it. You made it to the end. We're done. We really appreciate it. Of course, if you want to catch more of our episodes, you can find us on 4playernetwork.com. You can join us in our Discord at discord.gg/4player. And of course, you can subscribe to us at your preferred podcast platform, Spotify, iTunes. Is that still a thing that exists?
Watch
Google
it on YouTube.
Play, does that exist? Watch it on YouTube. Again, guys, I'm going to be paying more attention to YouTube comments. That filled my heart with warmth. So if you leave us comments on anything you watch. I I don't care so much these days how many views we get. I want to see comments. I want to hear from the people.
Comments.
So leave us comments, man. It makes my day. I want to hear from you guys.
Nick really needs a win right now, guys.
I really need a win because Silent Hill is really bringing me down. But anyways, guys, join us again next week for another episode. In the meantime, be safe, be good to each other, play video games, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Good night.